Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto was raised and trained by Shisui with the help of Kakashi part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Nephew, come over here. Come and meet Naruto. Minato said, excited and happy at the sight of his newborn son. Shisui didn't need to be told twice as he quickly walked over to see his newly born cousin. Shisui smiled as he saw Naruto. He noticed that Naruto had jet black hair with a slight tone of a fiery red that streaked through like that of his mother, Kushina Uzumaki. Like every Uchiha, Naruto has black eyes but seemed blacker than any ever seen. He's one of a kind, uncle. Shisui exclaimed with joy seeing Naruto. Resembling so much of Minato the fourth Hokage, with touches of Kushina. No Uchiha shared the same look of Naruto, as none shared both Uchiha and Uzumaki blood, nor did any ever have whisker marks on their cheeks. Naruto definitely fit Shisui's statement. He is truly one of a kind. That he is, Minato said with pride. He turned to Kushina. Here you go, my love, he said as he leaned over and handed their son to her to hold. Kushina was exhausted from just having given birth to Naruto, but holding her son brought out newfound energy as her expression changed to that of joy. She held him close as she looked onto Naruto while Minato held her in a hug as well. Hello there, Naru, it's your mother talking to you, she said with a smile and sing-song tone. It was obvious that she was tired, but her want to be with her son outweighed that feeling. Minato was smiling wider than ever before. Shisui, come for a photo. You should be in it, he said with a waving gesture for his nephew to come. Shisui's parents had died during the war when he was 5. Minato took him in as they were the only ones left of their family. Naturally, they developed a strong bond that was like father and son. Minato expressing that he wanted Shisui in the family photo showed him that he still held their bond even though his own true son has been born. It would be a lie if Shisui said he hadn't been worried that with Naruto's birth, he'd be pushed away and forgotten in a sense. Those worries were now cast out, and in that place was happiness and belonging. Quickly he took his place within the middle of them, Kushina holding Naruto with Minato's left arm around her, and his right hand on Shisui's right shoulder. All having large smiles with the exception of a half-sleeping Naruto. Uncle, I can't wait for him to get bigger. So many things we can do, Shisui said, excited for the possibilities and the future with them all together. Yes, but don't be so quick to look ahead, enjoy the moment. Don't take anything for granted or consider a moment insignificant in turn for another. Never know when it'll be gone. Maybe you would wish to return, but at that point you won't be able, Minato said. Yeah, I guess you're right about that. Still though, as much as he's adorable as a baby, it will be so much more fun when he's bigger, Shisui said while wiggling his index finger around the hands of Naruto who was trying to catch it. Minato, I'd really like some rest. Take Naruto, Kushina said with a yawn after finishing as her tiredness caught up to her. They were in a hideout surrounded by seals and umbu. She was in a bed but was nowhere near as comfortable as their own home, but it would have to do. After all, the seal that holds the Kyuubi weakens during childbirth, precautions had to be made. Only the people present along with the third Hokage knew of where and when this was taking place outside the village. The third Hokage was Minato's advisor and friend. His wife was the lead doctor during the procedure, and that is also how the third Hokage also knew. If the Kyuubi were to escape, everyone knew that no one man can defeat it. The seals surrounding the hideout and within the room were designed to hopefully hold the Kyuubi as well as constantly drain its chakra. It would be in a weakened state upon re-entering the physical world, so by constantly draining chakra from it, they hoped that it could never regain its power or recharge and potentially can reseal it within another host if they were unable to reseal it within Kushina for whatever reason. Although with a force as that of the Kyuubi, the most powerful tailed beast, everything was speculation in regards to if they could truly hold it back. The only man that had the power to truly hold it back was the Shodai Hokage. Madara doesn't really count as he couldn't truly hold it on his own. It is true that he could use genjutsu from his Sharingan to manipulate, or even control the Kyuubi, but that wouldn't last. Hashirama could imprison the Kyuubi within his wood-style techniques, and that would in a sense be the end of that problem. He could do it to every tailed beast at once. However, that's never been his intent and never sought them to control them. Minato being present also gave opportunity for him to reseal the Kyuubi. If not, he'd use his Sharingan to buy enough time for everyone to escape before he himself teleports Kushina, Naruto, Shisui and himself back the village. His Sharingan wasn't as strong as Madara's, and currently no Uchiha had a Sharingan that could truly control the Kyuubi. Only 2 people had the potential to freeze it for a time being, but they themselves would have to stand still as well. They were Minato and Fugaku. Fugaku could control it for a short time due to his Mangekyo Sharingan, but that would drain him of nearly all his chakra and it would more or less be a death wish. Shisui showed great potential and is hailed as currently one of the strongest Uchiha, as he unlocked his Mangekyo just 3 years ago at age 7. The youngest ever to unlock it, and not only that, but he's been a really gifted ninja to this point in terms of his abilities. A true master of the Shunshin technique as the only ninja that can use it effective in battle. On top of that, he's a master of fire techniques, as he can do most with a single hand sign, and his mastery of genjutsu is currently second to none. Minato hasn't unlocked his Mangekyo and also doesn't use his Sharingan nearly as much as any of the Uchiha. He sees it as a tool to be used, but not depended on. Generally, the Uchiha upon unlocking the Sharingan use it every chance they get, and in every battle, that leads to someone being entirely dependent on the abilities granted by the Sharingan, and what was once a tool becomes a crutch. Minato gladly took Naruto from Kushina as he rested and on her and gave her a kiss to the forehead. He looked over to Shisui when they both felt an odd presence of someone that wasn't supposed to be there. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Minato stated with a glare to the masked man. He had an orange mask and wore a large cloak that hung baggy and hood was up. The only thing that they could tell was that he had a very malicious intent. Given that he was here, it was a safe bet the Umbu won't be responding, as they were most likely dead or incapacitated. They stood still waiting for some attack, something to happen. Minato had to be careful as his wife was in no condition to fight or defend herself, plus he was holding his child. Without taking his eyes off the masked man, he spoke Shisui, "Here, take Naruto. I can't risk anything here. I will be with you shortly." He handed Naruto to Shisui, but before he could say anything about wanting to help fight the man, Minato teleported him with Shisui to their house. Shisui now looked down to Naruto worried but knew that Minato was a very capable shinobi. He wasn't Hokage for no reason. All Shisui did was place Naruto down on a bed and remain by his side, since there was no telling what the objective of the masked man was. Now that Naruto was with Shisui safe at his home, Minato felt more relaxed about the situation. However, his wife also still being here made him still be worried. Based on the fact that the masked man didn't seem to care that Naruto was gone led to the conclusion that he may be after the Kyuubi. With that being the case, now he stood between the man and Kushina, and took out one of his special kunai. "That jutsu won't help you in this, yandere," the masked man said in a deep tone. Minato didn't really care to what he was saying, as he was threatening the safety of those he loved. Without even a second wait, he hurled the kunai at the man who just stood there. The strange thing to Minato was that it just went right through. He knew this wasn't a clone and was indeed the man, so he teleported to the kunai and tried a slash at the man, only to phase right through. This doesn't make sense. What is going on? Minato thought as the man became intangible during his attacks. The man laughed too easy. And below the two of them the ground started to glow. This shocked Minato as his eyes widened, and just before the ground blew up from the explosive tags, he teleported to a different location in the woods outside the hideout. When did he place those? How does that intangibility work, and what is he planning? Minato thought as he stood up from the kneeling position he landed in and looked back to the hideout. The seals were gone and he saw the bodies of the Umbu. They weren't dead, but even if they awoke, they couldn't fight until a few days at least. What was worrying is that he could no longer feel the marker he had on Kushina. Normally he'd be able to sense it no matter where she was or how far. Even if she had died, the marker would remain. Not knowing where she was made him all the more certain that this was the goal of the man. He wanted him separated from Kushina and most likely to get the Kyuubi set free. After a few minutes he could once again feel the seal he had on Kushina and teleported to it. He noticed a few things. The Kyuubi was set free and the eyes had a Sharingan pattern. On top of that, it was about to kill Kushina, and he grabbed her and shine to the top of some trees. "Fast as ever, I see," the masked man commented before warping away. "Kushina, are you alright?" Minato said with worry all over his face. She looked paler and was extremely weakened. He knew she would die soon, since any Jinchuriki that gets their tailed beast extracted normally dies instantly. Her being in Uzumaki is the only reason she still is alive currently, and if he could reseal the Kyuubi right away she could live, since the chakra would heal her, but if too much time is taken and she is separated for too long, then she'll die regardless. With all that considered, he teleported to their home and Shisui stood up seeing Minato's return carrying a pale and weakened Kushina. "Here, lay with Naruto, Kushina," Minato said, placing her down beside Naruto. He grabbed his vest and put on his Hokage cloak. "I'll be back shortly." Then he teleported to the Hokage monument overlooking the village. A few moments earlier, the masked man warped into existence just outside the village. "Summoning jutsu," he said, and slammed his hand onto the ground, and in a large cloud of smoke appeared the Kyuubi. "Destroy everything." The Kyuubi started charging a tailed beast bomb and shot it at the monument to then have a collateral effect of taking out the Hokage building and Intel HQ. However, just before it could hit, it hit a large seal and started being absorbed into it, then disappeared, and the explosion was far from the village, but still heard and the explosion visible in the distance. "I've got to be careful about where I send those," Minato stated, and turned around to see the masked man warping into existence. Instantly the man started warping Minato, and was just about to send him into his dimension until there was a yellow flash and Minato was gone. He's faster than my Kamui." Minato landed in a flip and now laid on his back. "Damn, that ability of his, what is it? He can teleport without seals and apparently can send others away. Where would I have ended up?" Minato was extremely confused, and the jutsu the man was showing made him worried all the more. First was intangibility, now transportation. Can the two be connected? As he was contemplating all he was learning, the masked man warped in front of him. "You are truly fast, yandere," However, this is the end for you." The man now pulled out a chain and connected it to his wrists with it hanging behind him. Minato noticed that as he attacked, he would be intangible, which meant that he would go through, but then the chain would cut through him. So his intangibility won't allow him to attack, he must be tangible in order to attack. Still, that is an issue as he can be indestructible until he chooses. Minato took out a kunai and they charged each other. Back at the village, Lord Third. "The Kyuubi is attacking," an Umbu captain said to Hiruzen, who was already gearing up. "Yes, I sense it. Go tell the Uchiha to help evacuate the civilians, then have them join the fight, but not until everyone is safe. Get any ninja to fight, however, have the younger generation put into a barrier. We cannot lose them to this," Hiruzen said as he finished preparing for the battle ahead. "Hi!" the three Umbu exclaimed and shined to do their duty. Hiruzen appeared at the village gates and was briefed on the situation by a Jonin. "We must hold the Kyuubi back until the Yondaime can come," Hiruzen shouted as he summoned his adamantium staff and they started the battle. The adamantium staff is nearly indestructible and can expand infinitely. With those two abilities, he used it to push the Kyuubi back away from the village while the other ninja were throwing jutsu after jutsu at it to try and help push it back. It was slow and rough for them, but it was working enough. They all knew they could never really kill a tailed beast. They were just manifestations of chakra given physical form. They are immortal, and if sealed into a jinchuriki, even when that host dies, the tailed beast would die with them but reform after a couple years. Their only goal was to get the Kyuubi away from the village and hope that the Yondaime can do something. Minato vs. Masked Man. The fight had been going on for a few minutes and neither one was landing anything, since the Masked Man can just become intangible, while Minato was too fast for him. Minato glanced over to the village, and the battle was visible as flashes of light from jutsus, and the roars of the Kyuubi could be heard. His gaze went back to the Masked Man. "What an interesting position you're in. You want to go and protect the village, as is your duty as Hokage, however you can't just let me go, can you?" the Masked Man said as he watched Minato looking back to the village throughout the fight. "Enough of this. I'm going to have to use Hiraishin level 2, Minato thought as he ran at the Masked Man. They charged at each other, and as Minato went he threw a kunai at the Masked Man, and it started to phase through his head. The Masked Man was bringing his hand up to attack Minato while Minato charged up a Rasengan. They kept charging, and just as the kunai finally went all the through and just before the Masked Man could touch Minato, he teleported to the kunai and caught it in midair, then twirled his body around and slammed the Rasengan into the Masked Man's back. The Masked Man was slammed into the ground as he couldn't react to the speed of the attack, and as he was on the ground, a Hiraishin seal was placed onto his back. He teleported to that kunai, the Masked Man thought as he felt the pain from the attack and got up to face Minato. "It's time to end this. I need to get back to the village," Minato stated before he disappeared in a yellow flash and appeared directly in front of the Masked Man and slammed his hand onto the man's chest. A seal formed and glowed, then he jumped back. "A contract seal?" the Masked Man stated. "You are no longer able to summon the Kyuubi," Minato said and teleported back to the village, leaving behind a flash of yellow. Village. The battle was raging on and the Leaf was losing many shinobi to the Kyuubi. It was an overwhelming force, and there seemed to be nothing they could do. They were all starting to lose hope. Then there was a bright yellow flash, and from the sky Gamabunta came crashing down, landing on the Kyuubi. Everyone cheered as the Yondaime now arrived. "Lord Fourth, what's the plan?" Hiruzen shouted from the ground. "I'm going to teleport it away from the village. But it's going to take a little time to teleport something this big. Gamabunta, I need you to hold it down." Minato said he started to prepare to teleport him and the Kyuubi. It was going to take a lot of chakra, and he already used a lot, teleporting the tailed beast's bomb earlier, and the Hiraishin level 2 took a lot out of him. Plus his fight didn't help to conserve energy. "You better hurry. I can't hold him forever," Gamabunta shouted as he was struggling to keep the Kyuubi down. After a few moments there was a flash of yellow, and then Minato and the Kyuubi were both gone. He did it. "He's saved us," one of the shinobi said, and all of them started to cheer. Hiruzen looked to a few Umbu, and they knew it was still not over. "We must find the Yondaime and provide assistance however we can," he said quietly as he didn't want to ruin the spirits of the shinobi. It was a grueling fight and they lost many. Minato and the Kyuubi. They were far away from the village but still in fire country. Minato looked and noticed that the Kyuubi still had lost the Sharingan pattern in his eyes and that currently it was still stunned at the moment. "I've got to be quick. I will need Kushina to help me seal it." "Naruto, I'm sorry." Minato teleported Kushina, Naruto and also Shisui to his location. He looked to Kushina and had her set up a barrier of chakra around them and have her chakra chains wrap around the Kyuubi. These chains are indestructible and drain chakra. Nothing, not even the Kyuubi, can destroy them. They would last as long as Kushina willed them to, so long as she had chakra. Minato began preparing the ritual required. "Shisui, watch over Naruto, will you? He's going to have a hard life from this point forward. Be his light in the darkness that will surround him." "I will protect him with my life, uncle," Shisui said as tears started to come from his eyes. He was holding Naruto, and when everything was prepared, he laid him down on the little bed that was made. Minato went through the hand seals for the Reaper summoning. The Kyuubi, seeing what was going on, didn't want to be sealed and tried to kill baby Naruto with his claw. However, both Kushina and Minato jumped in front of Hit and were stabbed through the stomach and held the claw in place. Minato finished the summing and placed the 8 trigram seal on Naruto's stomach, and with the help of the Shinigami sealed the chakra within himself before putting it into Naruto. The entire Kyuubi was put into Naruto, and now the Kyuubi was gone, but now they were dying. Minato only had a few minutes until he died due to the use of the Reaper seal. Kushina had slightly longer. Is there anything you want to say to Naruto before we go? Minato asked, saddened that this would be the last time he was with Naruto. With tears and sadness, but still the happiness of being a mother. There's so much. Naruto, I love you. I want you to be happy. It will be hard, I know, but don't give up. Being a Jinchuriki is something I would never want for you, as it's lonely and dark. I wish you could be in never-ending happiness and joy, full of love, but it may not go that way. You'll have your older cousin Shisui, and he will take care of you. You'll also have Jiraiya later on as well, but don't follow in his actions, okay? They're not appropriate, and it's a shame that he is that way. Be sure to always be respectful and kind and hold those few people that like you close to your heart, and never let them go. They'll be the ones to keep you in the light. There's so much I wish I could teach you and wish I could be with you, Naruto, I love you. Kushina said, crying. Minato, I'm sorry I've taken all your time, Kushina said with tears still running down her face. Minato just smiled and held her close. It's okay. Naruto, listen to your mother, and try to take it easy on Shisui, okay? Don't cause too much trouble, alright? He's really young and this will be challenging, but I know you two will be great. How can you be sure it will all be okay? Kushina said, crying. Because he is my son. Minato said with a smile. He looked to Shisui, sorry that I'll be leaving you alone now, please help Naruto through this incredible burden. I wish that the villagers to look to him as a hero, as without him the Kyuubi would destroy the village. Shisui nodded. He couldn't speak as he was crying. He didn't want to see them die. He always seen Minato as the most powerful shinobi ever and looked to him as if he were indestructible. Today only showed that no man is immortal, death comes for everyone. He also learned a rather ironic thing about heroes. They're seen as people who would always be there and can never die. However, in real life, the hero will generally always die. It's their sacrifice that makes them a hero. With one last hug with all of them together, Minato died and Kushina cried even more as the love of her life has passed away. Hiruzen with the 3 Anbu finally arrived to see Shisui holding a crying Naruto, Minato laying dead, and a barely alive Kushina. Kushina, Hiruzen said as he ran over to her. Minato sealed the Kyuubi within Naruto. Shisui is going to take care of him. Please help take care of Naruto. Minato, and I wish for Naruto to be seen as a hero for holding the Kyuubi, but if it's possible, tried to keep it secret until he's had time to make a couple friends. At least it's a lot to ask, and I know from personal experience that it will be hard, Kushina said before going limp and dying. Of course, Kushina. I will do my best to protect Naruto for you and Minato. Hiruzen stood up and signaled the Anbu to take Kushina and Minato to the village. He walked to Shisui and rested his right hand on Shisui's left shoulder. Shisui, this will be hard. Not just for him but for you as well. I'm taking you into Anbu so that your missions are limited and you'll be one of my guards so that I can keep you in the village with Naruto. When he's old enough to take care of himself, you can choose to return to Jonin status or remain Anbu, but for now it will be this way. Shisui nodded and took it all in. What of his heritage? Hiruzen looked to him and thought of it. No one can know he is the son of Minato, at least until he's strong enough to protect himself. Shisui nodded, but him being with me. Yes, we'll have to cover up the fact that you're Minato's nephew. It's good that your relationship to them was never really publicly known, as even his marriage to Kushina was secret. Hiruzen said solemnly. So much secrecy had to be done in order to keep those close to Minato safe, but now the loss goes farther. Sadly, it would make his son never know of his father or mother for a long time. Only few knew Minato was expecting a child, one being Kakashi. I believe Kakashi deserves to know. He was Uncle's student, and their connection was strong, plus I know he would like to know what has happened. I know he'd help as well. Shisui said, looking at Hiruzen. Hiruzen nodded. As you wish. Is there anything you need of me? Well, where do we go? I know I can't just go to the old estate, Shisui said, looking down slightly. I'll have a house set up. For now, go to the Hokage office and wait for me there. Hiruzen said, and Shisui's shun shined away. Minato, I will do my best to make your wishes a reality. Hokage office. Shisui sat crying, holding Naruto. He lost the last family he had, but gained another. He still technically has the clan, but that wasn't the same. The Uchiha didn't even know of Naruto, and also didn't know Shisui was the nephew of Minato. Fugaku had been friends with Minato after all. His wife Mikoto was best friends with Kushina, but Shisui was never around when they got together. Minato wanted to keep the secret of Shisui being his nephew from everyone since it was safer that way, and Fugaku and Mikoto were the only ones aside from Hiruzen, Jiraiya, the 3 Hokage guards, and Kakashi that knew of his relationship to Kushina. As such, they were the only ones that knew that Minato and Kushina had a child on the way together, although only Kakashi would learn of Naruto while the others wouldn't. Kakashi and Shisui were both so young still. Kakashi being 16 and Shisui 10. Naruto, I'll make sure you be strong and taken care of. I know Kakashi will gladly help as well. Shisui said looking down at him. The night ended, but there was so much that was to come as it is only the beginning. Kakashi was walking through the streets of Konoha. The damage could have been worse given what happened, but still, after last night it was safe to say that things wouldn't be normal for a while. The loss everyone sustained left them all in a state of sadness. There hadn't been word yet on how many have been lost, but there were many that got hospitalized. A lot of the survivors can no longer be shinobi as the injuries were too grave. What troubled Kakashi the most was that his sensei hadn't been seen after he teleported the Kyuubi away. No one knew anything. All anyone knew was that the Kyuubi was defeated. Kakashi wasn't dumb, and if he hadn't heard anything then, that had to mean that Minato died. Kakashi looked up to the Hokage monument, and from his single visible eye, a tear shed as he felt he knew that again he lost someone close to him. Hokage office. Shisui, sorry to keep you waiting. Shisui stood up upon seeing the third Hokage enter the room. It's okay, Lord Third. The council is being assembled. They must know of what has transpired. This also means that Naruto's status as Jinchuriki will be known. And of his parents? That is not necessary right now. Obviously Fugaku knows, but nobody else needs to know. What if he wants Naruto? Shisui said. Hiruzen pondered on that. He hadn't really considered it before. Surely Fugaku and Mikoto would wish to be able to raise the son of their friend. However, they wish for Shisui to look after Naruto. Maybe we will speak with him prior. He'll respect the wishes of Minato. Hiruzen said. There was a knock on the door, and this surprised the two of them. Hiruzen gave permission for someone to enter. Ah, Kakashi. What a surprise. What can I do for you? Hiruzen said. Honestly, he wasn't looking forward to breaking the news to Kakashi. He lost so much already in his young life, hearing of more would only worsen things. Kakashi glanced around, he recognized Shisui, then he saw the baby and then looked to Hiruzen once more. So he is gone, Kakashi said. Yes, he is. This is Naruto. Shisui said. Kakashi watched over Kushina from time to time as he was one of Minato's personal Umbu members and was trusted by him more so than others. Mainly that was formed since Kakashi had been his student. That led to him knowing about Naruto's upcoming birth. Also, he now contains the Kyuubi. Come again? Kakashi said, looking up from Naruto and back at Shisui. He sealed the Kyuubi within Naruto with help from Kushina. Listen, Kakashi, I would like for you to help Shisui train Naruto when he's old enough to understand. Minato entrusted him to the two of you. Hiruzen said. I'll gladly help in any way. Shisui and Hiruzen smiled and were glad to know that they had been right. Although losing Minato hurt so much, together they can try and make it all better. Now to deal with the council. Hiruzen said. It was obvious that this was going to be a long meeting. The council made up of each of the major clan heads and a few members of the civilian side made up the council, along with the Hokage's advisors. However, since Minato was now dead, the question of who to take his place would be asked. Hiruzen knew he had to retake office as he knew that Danzo couldn't be entrusted with the position, and no one else really had the support to be Hokage. Orochimaru deserted, Tsunade had no intention on returning after her losses, and Jiraiya had a spy network and would probably not be emotionally prepared to take the seat as he would soon learn that his student and great friend has died. That considered the last of the few people that were being in question for fourth Hokage had been Fugaku. He had the power, but didn't have the support of the people or as much support as Minato. Maybe now he could. Then there was also Danzo. He has been gunning for the position for ages now. His love for Konoha was never doubted. His methods, however, were never great. Danzo hated and distrusted the Uchiha, and would do anything to get rid of them. He only never did anything towards Minato since he was the only Uchiha he knew he'd lose to. That and Minato was actually rather different from other Uchiha. For some reason there wasn't a distrust. Everyone would most likely approve of Hiruzen's decision to retake office, aside from Danzo of course, but no one would really care about his opinion anyways. 30 minutes later. Thank you all for gathering this morning. I know that last night was hard on everyone. Hiruzen said. The council gathered and among them was Fugaku Uchiha, Tsuminazuka, Inoichi Yamanaka, Shibi Aburame, Shikaku Nara, Hayashi Hyuga, Chuza Kimichi, and then the advisors being Danzo, Hamura and Koharu. I sadly must inform you that there is another loss you must know. Hiruzen looked into space, not looking anyone in the eye, and sighed. The fourth Hokage has died during his fight against the Kyuubi. The room was silent. Their Hokage was dead and now the village was unprotected per se. The Kage position in person as Kage was the village's shield against attack. They were the village's last line of defense. Without the Hokage, the village is vulnerable. As such, I'll be assuming the role of Hokage again. Hiruzen said, bringing everyone out of their thoughts. Danzo was infuriated but said nothing as now wasn't the time. He knew the village needed someone to fill the role, and most of all he knew Hiruzen's power. Hiruzen wasn't called the god of shinobi for nothing. Danzo and he were teammates, and he got to see his feats firsthand. Hiruzen's reputation would do well to quell plots to attack Konoha. Even in old age, Hiruzen was still one of the most powerful shinobi in Konoha and even in the 5 great nations. The other council members also approved of the thought of the Sandaime retaking the position. Hiruzen made eye contact with Fugaku, and without saying a word was able to express that they needed to talk after everyone left. So what do we do? Asked Hayashi clan head of the Hyuga. We rebuild. Hiruzen said. With that everyone started to leave except for Fugaku. Hiruzen made a waving gesture, and the Umbu were gone. What if the child Minato and Kushina were expecting? Fugaku went straight to the point as he didn't care about pleasantries at the moment. Shisui come out. Out of the shadows came Shisui still holding Naruto. They sealed the QB into their son. This is Naruto. What do you plan to do with him? Surely you won't just put him in the orphanage. Shisui will raise him, Hiruzen said. Fugaku looked at Shisui. He had no bad thoughts towards him. In fact, he respected the young Uchiha more than most. His power would someday soon surpass his own. He looked back to Hiruzen. He's still young. I am more than ready, Shisui said. You didn't let me finish. Fugaku said with a slight chuckle. You are still young, but you will have my support should you need it. This caught Shisui off guard as he was ready to start an argument to get him to approve. I am guessing that it was his wish, as such I won't stand against it. Mikoto will be a little sad. I understand the need of secrecy, and I won't tell my kids of his true heritage. You two can come see him whenever you please, Fugaku-sama. Much appreciated, Fugaku said with a smile. He looked to Hiruzen and surprised them once again. So what is your relation to Minato? He wouldn't entrust his son to just anyone, and seeing as how Kakashi wasn't the one chosen, you must be even closer. Hiruzen looked at Shisui and got a nod. He is Minato's nephew. That explains it. However, it's odd that you weren't around whenever we came. No matter. If that is all, I'll be returning to my family before gathering the police force. Yes, you're dismissed. When he was gone, Shisui stated his surprise at how easy it went. In the end, they were both glad that things went far easier than anticipated. The biggest surprise of all being Danzo's silence. However, it wouldn't bother him. So when will you tell the council of Naruto and the QB? Hopefully not for a long while. Well, let's take you to your new home. About 10 minutes later, they had finally made it to the house they will live at. It was located near the outskirts of the village, and they had about 4 acres of land. They were distant in case Naruto ever began to lose control to the QB. The hope was to limit damage and death, but even so, it would only do so much. I can work with this. Once he is 4, I can begin training him, and this space is absolutely perfect. Yes, however, it also serves to. I know, Sandaime-sama. You don't need to tell me. Hiruzen nodded also. You now being a jonin means that we want you to take someone to train. We selected someone you may be interested in. Who would that be? Shisui said, raising an eyebrow. Itachi Uchiha. Son of Fugaku Uchiha. Itachi Uchiha. Interesting. In a week, Shisui had his assignment to take Itachi through an exercise that would last 3 days. The goal was to track a target and capture them for intel. During the exercise, he was to teach survival skills and, of course, methods of tracking to hopefully complete the goal. Shisui didn't know much about Itachi aside the fact that he was the son of the clan head and that he was apparently gifted. This he would have to check out. Itachi was only 5, so it would be interesting to say the least. Before that, however, he had to get situated in the new house and get someone to look after Naruto. He wanted Kakashi, as he was the only one he trusted. But this made him wonder, if Kakashi and him both were to be on mission, who'd look after Naruto? Hiruzen might, but he's still as busy as Hokage, so he wouldn't add to his troubles? Maybe Kakashi trusts someone. He'll have to figure that out. The village was starting to bounce back, pretty quick too. Rebuilds were underway and even some fortifying. It looked like they were planning to expand the walls, especially around the southern regions. There wasn't talk as for what the expansion of the village was for. Guesses were to just house more and just create more within the village, but it was odd still. There were rumors of a new compound system to take place, but at the moment it was speculation. As the training exercise neared, Shisui had been preparing his tools when he learned the hard way of making sure that nothing was within Naruto's reach. He managed to get one of Shisui's kunai and almost managed to try to eat it before he noticed. That would have ended so bad. Finally the day came and Shisui began walking to the house of Fugaku Uchiha. It was located a few blocks away from the police headquarters in the center of the village. Along the walk he noticed that people were beginning to be more livelier, as most had been mourning to this point. It was nice to see them returning to normal. Time can work miracles in some senses. But soon it would be on to business. However, Shisui didn't always take it too seriously, tending to be a little more lax than most. But now he would see the type of person Itachi was. Ah, Shisui, you're here for Itachi? Good morning, Fugaku-sama, and yes. Is he ready? Fugaku nodded. Itachi. Shisui's here. A few moments later Itachi walked out. He was about 7 inches shorter than Shisui and had hair that reached the base of his neck. Hello Itachi, I am Shisui. I'll be training you from now on, Shisui said, holding out a hand. Itachi took it and shook his hand. He looked back to Fugaku, then stood beside Shisui awaiting their departure. We'll be back in 3 days, Shisui said, and with that he touched Itachi's shoulder and shined them to the entrance of the Forest of Death. Do you know our objective, Itachi? We are to track down a fugitive and bring them in for intel. Yes, that is the main objective. So without a further ado, let's begin. They opened the gate and entered the forest. This forest is filled with deadly animals and is used for high-level shinobi. No one other than jonin will generally go in there. Some chunin, but for the most part not many really like being in the forest. It is a great place for training. However, they were walking through trying to find some clues. The fugitive was given a 2-hour head start in setting up their decoys and going about their escape in a way it was like keep away. The fugitive was never to leave the forest, and remain hidden by setting up traps, decoys, and anything to not be caught. There were no rules aside from the restriction of leaving the forest. Should there be confrontation, anything goes. Shisui was going to let Itachi take the reins on this exercise as he wanted to see how well he could do, offering support when needed. There wouldn't be a point in this if Shisui led, as he had more than enough skill to handle this. Most of his missions would be rank or higher, and these types of situations often happen, especially when dealing with spies. Plus, Itachi being a prodigy, well, he wanted to see about that. Find something, Itachi? Itachi was reaching into a tree trunk. Hi. A scroll. Itachi handed the scroll to Shisui, who opened it up and looked at the contents. It contained information on the fugitive, saying that he was an Earth-style user and a genjutsu user. Good eye, Itachi. We got some useful information on our fugitive. What do you think? Shisui handed the scroll back to Itachi. The decoys can be even more intricate given that we could accidentally trigger a genjutsu of his. That's right. Keep your senses up, Shisui said with a smile as they moved on. He's got the book smarts. No doubt about that. I wonder about his skills, Shisui thought as they were moving through the trees. He smiled when he saw an opportunity. About 50 meters ahead of him, he noticed a large snake. It was half the size of a summoning. That was the odd thing about this forest. All the animals in it were abnormally huge, and that's what made it so deadly. As he saw it charging at him since he was in front of Itachi, he just swung over to the side and turned around to see Itachi make 2 slices through the snake, cutting it into 3 pieces with his tanto. Not bad. Good job, Itachi. Well, he's got some genjutsu training. I could definitely teach him some techniques in that. Why are you smiling? It's nothing, Itachi. But look, there seems to be 2 paths. They dropped down from the trees and now looked at 2 paths where it seems someone may have traveled. They were in a slightly moistened environment, so the footsteps were easy to notice since they sunk beneath the surface slightly. So which way do you think? Itachi walked to the one on the left and began to look at it, analyzing every bit he could take in, and the same on the right. The tracks are too perfect on this side. Our fugitive wants to get away. These are as if he stood in place on each foothold. There's no indication that a step was taken aside from the fact that there is a track. Well done. You are certainly right. Given that he's an Earth-style user, it is safe to assume that he manufactured those tracks to hopefully take us off his course. Shisui patted his shoulder, and they began to follow the other set of tracks. Itachi's knowledge and skills were impressing to Shisui. The only issue in his head was that he did things solely by the book. Like there was no flexibility in his thinking. It was good to have that knowledge, but in the real world it isn't always black and white. He'd have to try to get Itachi to change that. The tracks led to a river and Shisui began to get some water and filter it. However, Itachi was still looking around. I think a fish may have left that mark, Shisui said as Itachi seemed to be rubbing the moss on the side of a rock in the river. Itachi looked frustrated by that. So it's not a decoy? Everything starts to look like them. Being able to confuse your pursuers is the goal, as it gives many options. I guess I need better tracking skills. You're half right, Itachi, Shisui said and took a sip of water. Here. They sat down on the rock that Shisui was on. It's because you're exceptional, Itachi, that it's harder. Having the skills for tracking a fugitive is important, but so is understanding how he thinks. I see, Itachi said and smiled. Shisui stood up, noticing the sun going down. Well, let's move on to the next part of the exercise. Itachi nodded and they began to catch a few fish and set up an area to be situated for camp. Don't the books say to not use campfires? Shisui looked up. You're exceptional, Itachi. I'm still inexperienced. Haha, you're right about that. Don't laugh, Itachi said. I'm sorry. It just makes me happy. You've taught me a lot. That's what makes me happy. It's nice to eat a meal with someone that makes you at ease. Itachi widened his eyes in surprise. Eat, while it's hot, Itachi. Itachi took a bite and then looked back up to Shisui. I awakened the Sharingan. Is that why you don't want to be at home? How? It's the look you had, and that you came instantly to my side as if eager, not out of excitement. He noticed from the beginning. I understand, Itachi. Just know, if you ever want to talk about it, I'm here. Itachi smiled. After all, that's what friends are for, right? Itachi nodded and smiled. It felt as some of the weight that he'd been carrying was slowly coming off. Suddenly they heard the sound of swords clanging together, and immediately put out the fire, and ran towards the sounds. What surprised them was to see an Umbu fall into the 6-inch deep stream with a gash on his shoulder. Are you alright? Shisui asked. He then noticed that what made him fall was some wire around his ankle and that it cut into him a bit. Metal wires, this can be dangerous. Suddenly 3 more Umbu dropped in. More Umbu? Shisui said. Hand us the traitor. The middle Umbu, who was also the biggest of the 3, said. What proof do you have to say he's a traitor? Shisui said. He's not quite the traitor. However, he was information in regards to who it actually is. The one on the left said who was the woman of the group. What? That's what you're after. I'm going to Lord Hokage. The injured Umbu said. I'll help you to the best of my abilities. I, Itachi Uchiha, will also help Shisui. Shisui said quietly as he glanced over at him, surprised that he'd jump in like this. Itachi was smart and talented. No doubt about that. However, these were Umbu and this would get dangerous. Suddenly the female Umbu threw a kunai at the head of the injured Umbu, and he was revealed to be a water clone. Oh well, my wires are covered in poison. He won't be getting far before his body goes numb. The two male Umbu charged at Shisui with their swords out while the female went after Itachi, pushing him back away from Shisui. You Uchiha would dare try to push your luck and get in the way, she said to Itachi before charging. Itachi kept being forced to back up as she attacked with two swords versus his one. Her attacks were acrobatic, and with a final strike she spun to add more momentum into a more powerful swing. Itachi had been barely keeping up and got knocked back with the final blow, giving him some much-wanted space. Sharingan, Itachi said as his eyes changed from black into a spinning two-tomo Sharingan. Then she charged once more as she didn't want to give him any time to think of a plan. Now her movements were much easier for Itachi to react to, since he was practically one step ahead, since his eyes can perceive her movement before it's done. Although now his defense was being strengthened, he still could not get any offense in since he wasn't exactly faster than her. Plus she didn't leave many chances to attack. Having two swords allowed her to always maintain pressure, and if he parried one blow and tried to attack, she still had a second blade to continue her advance. At this point it wasn't going anywhere, and she decided to switch it up. She started throwing shuriken at Itachi and directing them with her wire. Itachi would dodge easily, and then she changed their direction with the wire, making them land in trees or rocks. She threw a few kunai with the wire, and those would get dodged and embed themselves on the floor behind Itachi. She keeps adding layers to the wire, doubling or even tripling over each other, creating some sort of pattern. As Itachi kept dodging, she began to try and increase the volume, as it seemed like she was finishing off her plan of sorts. With the last few, Itachi jumped through the air, and she had thrown 3 more shuriken in preparation of that. He was forced to spin in mid-air to dodge the 3. I can see it, so this is the power of the Sharingan. After dodging the previous 3, he saw 3 more and threw his sword through centers of the shuriken, and the sword got impeded on a stone, to which he landed standing on the handle of his sword. The shuriken had still been spinning, and he looked impassively at her. You've fallen into my trap, Uchiha. She cut a wire beside her. The wires all started to respond, and some were snapping around Itachi, but rather than ensnaring him, all of a sudden the wires changed course and caught around her throat and wrist, choking her. How? A few minutes earlier, Shisui versus 2 Umbu. Shisui began on the defensive as both Umbu attacked him. They both would strike one after another, keeping him on the defensive. Each strike he blocked effortlessly, and had it been a single opponent he could counter, but there being 2, the other wouldn't allow that. The bigger one tried to jump up in the air to do a powerful strike downwards, but Shisui sidestepped it, and as he was going to slash him, the smaller Umbu launched over the other, trying to stab Shisui, to which he pushed the blade to his left using his tanto, and spun to his right, backhanding the Umbu with his left. He followed up by sending a right kick to the Umbu's back, which made him fall to the ground. Shisui turned around quick enough to block a strike from the bigger Umbu, and he jumped away. Looks like Itachi has things handled. Guess I'll end things here. He brought his hands together, teleportation jutsu. Shisui began running around them, and suddenly 2 more of him could be seen to his right, then another 3 on the opposite side of the Umbu, mirroring the other 3. Then 2 more sets to make 4 sets of Shisui running around them in an evenly spaced increment. Shadow clones? The smaller Umbu said. The bigger Umbu shook his head. No, they're after-image clones. I can't tell which is the real one, the smaller one said as he blocked a sword strike from one clone on his right, then a kick from his left. Suddenly one appeared behind him and chopped the back of his neck, knocking him out. Enough of this, the bigger Umbu said, and slammed his fist in the stream, causing a shockwave which forced the water up in the air. He looked up and saw that the clones still remained surrounding him, all holding their swords out in front of them with the blade parallel to the ground and left hand against the back of the blade. How are they still here? The Umbu asked. Shisui appeared behind him with his tantos tipped to the Umbu's back. My teleportation jutsu has no mass, therefore my clones won't be destroyed. He heard a loud whistle. Looks like the Jonin observing our training exercise have noticed. He backed off and sheathed his tanto. Upon doing so, his clones vanished and left him alone behind the Umbu. The Umbu went and grabbed his teammates. We will be watching you, Shisui Uchiha, Itachi Uchiha, the Umbu said, and shined away with his knocked out teammates. Who were they? Those Itachi were Lord Danzo's Umbu. I think it's time we start to head back. The exercise is over. Itachi began to take a step when he noticed a sharp pain through his foot and stumbled slightly. Take it easy, Itachi. Let me see. Shisui had Itachi sit down, and he checked out his ankle before wrapping it. It'll be okay, just stay off it. He took Itachi onto his back, much to his displeasure, which made Shisui laugh. They were finally back in the village when Itachi asked about why his ankle had been hurt. There's a slight gap in between what your Sharingan sees and how your body reacts. You see, no matter what, your body will always be slower than the perception of your eyes. They get stronger as you get stronger. So I'll always get hurt using the Sharingan? No. You're just not used to the new perception. You adapted quickly, and I'm impressed by that. However, as you can tell, you've got some training to do. Itachi made an annoyed look. Don't worry, Itachi, you'll get there soon. However, what you did tonight was risky. First off by engaging the Umbu, and second by testing out an untrained power in the heat of combat. I understand, but I couldn't just leave you to fight them alone, and I had to use the Sharingan. Haha, don't be calling me weak, Itachi. I can handle myself, you know. No, that's not what I know, Itachi. Just be careful, alright? Just remember to never try untrained power in combat. It may have ended alright now, but it may not always be the case. I will, Shisui. Itachi passed out finally, and Shisui smiled as he continued walking. 10 minutes later he arrived to Itachi's home, and surprisingly Fugaku was outside. Back already? How'd he do? He's exceptional, Fugaku-sama. I can definitely work with him, no problem. In fact, I'd like to start tomorrow. Of course. That's really good to hear. You said this was to be a 3-day exercise. What happened? I'm not exactly sure how classified this will become, but I'm sure that what I tell you will be right, seeing as it wasn't too major. We ran into an umbu and 3 of Lord Danzo's umbu. Itachi fought one and handled himself well. Outside of that I can't really say anything else. Fugaku just nodded. I'll take him inside, thank you. When will you come for him? 8. Okay. Shisui shunshine to his house. Itachi, you don't cease to amaze. I can tell that you and I are going to be good friends. Shisui smiled seeing Naruto sleeping on Kakashi's lap, who was also sleeping on the couch facing the TV. Ah man, he's gonna get Naruto addicted to that thing. 2 months have gone by since Shisui began training Itachi. Their friendship had been growing exponentially as they started being together all the time. Itachi was a true prodigy, as he was like a sponge in regards to anything Shisui tried to teach him. Itachi's growth in this short time made Shisui excited to when he could start with Naruto. He knew though that not everyone learns as fast, and Itachi is an exception. What are the odds that Naruto could be such a prodigy? Shisui also was truly thankful of Kakashi for all his help and less thankful for Naruto's addiction to TV. However, unsurprisingly, there came a time when they both couldn't watch Naruto. Kakashi had a few recommendations, but Shisui went with one of Kakashi's umbu squad members. He actually was quite fond of her but had not mentioned it. Her name was Yugao, and she was 12 and a master in genjutsu, so if she had become fond of Naruto, maybe she could help in training him as well. Shisui felt it was useful to learn from several masters of an art, as you can get different perspectives or techniques. He was heading to meet up with Itachi, this time bringing Naruto. He wanted to introduce him to his little cousin and show him where he currently draws his strength from. I'm sure he'll accept him. They met up at their favorite training ground, and Itachi had already been waiting there. They smiled seeing each other, and Itachi stood up to meet Shisui. Hey there, Naruto, this is my friend Itachi. Naruto had awoken a few minutes earlier and had been groggy, but all of a sudden started being all energized. He looked at Itachi and stared into his eyes for a bit. Does he not like me? Not sure, never seen him just stare at someone. Shisui said, chuckling. Suddenly Naruto smiled and giggled at Itachi, and held his hand out to him. They laughed as they noticed how tense they had gotten. They played around with Naruto, and he was crawling around trying to grab an ankle or two. Surprisingly enough, he actually started try and stand and got halfway up but quickly fell down. Almost that time. He's starting to stand already? Shisui nodded. He's been trying more lately, and it's surprising how he's developing at so young. It will be a long while before he takes a step, however. Don't you have a sibling? Yeah, 3 months older. Maybe when they get older they can be friends like us? That'd be great. But Itachi, there is something you must know if we are to get closer and your family sees him. What is it? It's a secret, but Fugaku-sama knows, and I'd like you to know as well. Itachi nodded. Naruto is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Interesting, is that why you are his guardian? Partly. He's also really my family. I thought that. Yeah, he's my cousin. His father, my uncle, was the Yondaime. Itachi was shocked at learning that Shisui had been related to the Yondaime. Now learning this, he respected Shisui even more. If you ever need help, I appreciate it. Yugao should be coming for him soon so we can get to our mission. Itachi nodded and smiled. It's nothing like that. Man, shut up, you're one to talk. I seen how you are with Izumi, Shisui said with his arms crossed. Why you dash? Boys, you done? Said Yugao standing in the clearing. What? When did you get here? Shisui said nervously. Right now. Thank God. Well, here's Naruto. We will be leaving and be back in a few days. She took him and nodded. The leaf had really began to change. The expansion had concluded, and now some of the major clans got relocated. It is true that some of the village was destroyed, and the thought process on the relocations was to have the major clans be located much closer to the center or by Hokage Tower. The Hyuga were moved into 2 compounds, both about 7 blocks away from the tower. The Nara clan located near the Forest of Death with the Aburain clan. Coincidentally, Shisui had lived 5 minutes away from the forest, so he would use it for training often. However, he was now the only Uchiha living separately. The southern regions were expanded the most, and now it was shown why. The entire Uchiha clan was moved to the now farthest end of the village, as well as the police headquarters. Realistically, it made no sense to have them based there since it would be far, and now they weren't centralized. Danzo explained it as being a way to offer the Uchiha more opportunity for training and space for their needs. Fugaku wasn't convinced, however, and knew there was something else going on. Why would only the Uchiha clan be forced to move so drastically? Most of the other clans had already been around those areas and still had some choice on where they'd be, whilst the Uchiha had a mandatory order of living in the compound. Fugaku tried to meet with Hiruzen to try and change it if even slightly, but there was nothing that could be done. The village elders forced Hiruzen's hand, and there was nothing he could do. He did not want this to happen. He didn't share the elders' views or worries. He explained to Fugaku that Danzo has gotten the elders to be suspicious of the Uchiha clan, blaming the Kyuubi attack. The Sharingan pattern was seen in its eyes, although only Fugaku was currently the only Uchiha in the village that could potentially control it, and was even one farthest from it, as his duty was to the civilians based on Hiruzen's orders. That didn't stop Danzo from making the narrative of a potential traitor. He pinned the death of the Yondaime, and so many others, on an Uchiha member. Danzo relocated the Uchiha, segregating the clan to the furthest, most isolated section of the village and stripping some of their power by giving that responsibility to the Umbu. Fugaku was livid. They were blaming his clan for something they didn't do, forcing them to move and also taking away some of their power and influence in the village. Hiruzen could only apologize, as there was nothing he could do. Shisui and Itachi had a routine patrol around the borders of Fire Country. Generally, they were uneventful and boring for anyone. That was only along the borders of Wind Country, however. The higher-ranked shinobi will patrol towards the Earth and Lightning borders. After the war, there still were high tensions. They arose even more as now news of the death of the Yondaime has spread, as well as the Kyuubi's attack and worries that the two countries may try to take advantage of Konoha's weakened state. The increase in the border presence was to show that, despite it all, they were still of the most powerful villages. After all, Konoha managed to win the last 3 wars without use of the Kyuubi, so the plan was to continue on as if nothing happened. Shisui. Yeah? Something the matter? Remember when we met how you knew I didn't want to be home, and I said I'd awakened the Sharingan? Yeah. You okay, Itachi? Shisui stopped walking to now focus on Itachi as they sat down on a log. I awakened it because my dad took me to the battlefield when I was younger. I saw what the war did to people. I killed a man because he tried to kill me when all I did was give him water. Itachi. I couldn't activate on will, though not until about a month before we met. My team and I were on a mission with a traveling merchant. Everything was fine until he showed up. There was some masked man and he killed Shinko, the merchant, and my sensei. Tenma asked for my help, but I was frozen. He got killed and I was spared. From that point on, my Sharingan can be activated at will. And I got left with a deep sadness and guilt. Shisui said. Yeah, you see, Itachi, the Sharingan heightens the emotions felt of the user. The Sharingan is like a window to one's soul, making it visible in their eyes. Shisui, how do you know so much? Itachi, there's a reason that I am so renowned in the clan. I achieved the Sharingan, and its full power younger than anyone else before. The 3rd level, is that bad? No, Itachi, the true power of the Sharingan. Itachi looked at Shisui. The true power? Mangekyo's Sharingan. Shisui's eyes changed from 3 tomo and spun as it became a new pattern, red background with a black shuriken of 4 blades that reached the ends. This, Itachi, is the Sharingan's power at its fullest. Shisui's eyes spun again and reverted back to the 3 tomo, then back to his normal black eyes. He looked down, not making any more eye contact. I was 7, Itachi. The final stage of the eyes are a power only unlocked in loss and the pain of watching someone you care about die. Is that the cost to power? Pain, suffering, if only. Listen, Itachi, I hope you never have to awaken this power. Shisui, if I may, how did you awaken it? The Mangekyo? Itachi nodded. Shisui took a deep breath, still not looking at him. Like I said, I was 7, I graduated the academy really early due to the war. My team and I got ambushed. My friend, my rival, he was better than me in everything. As the attacks came flying at us, we had been running, they were getting closer, and he fell. I could have helped him, I could have saved him, but I was always jealous of him. So I didn't. Figured he'd get himself back up and be fine. He didn't. One of the jutsu hit him, and he was just gone. Itachi and Shisui sat in silence. Shisui couldn't bring himself to look at Itachi after telling him about his eyes and what he had been guilty of. Shisui hadn't told anyone other than Minato about his power. Does it do anything? Itachi asked. Shisui smirked slightly. It offers unique abilities to the user. No two share the same. Generally it's 2 abilities, but I only have 1, it's in each of my eyes. It's called Kodo Amatsukami. It's a genjutsu that allows me to control someone without them ever knowing. I can rewrite their memories or create new ones. I can literally change one's life and they never know the difference. Itachi's eyes widened as he imagined the applications of such an ability. That is absolutely crazy, Shisui. Sounds amazing, Itachi. Something you must learn. No jutsu is a perfect jutsu. Every single jutsu, and I mean every single one, has a drawback and or a counter. What could be the drawback to your ability? My vision, Itachi. My vision. What do you mean? The Sharingan gives heightened perception, the Mangekyo is that times 10. Everything gets dialed up. That isn't what takes away eyesight. Using the abilities given by the Mangekyo will do that. Shisui. Do you think peace can ever be truly achieved? I'm not sure. Oh, haha, don't get so down, Itachi. Doesn't mean we can't try. The world has so much hatred, it'll be hard to achieve, but then again, nothing worth getting ever comes easy. Said Shisui and patted his shoulder. I'll always be there for you, my friend. 10 minutes later they would finally leave and continue on. It would be a few more days until they could return. Naruto and Yugao. Damn it! Where'd the brat go? Said Yugao. Naruto, for such a young age, was really quite mischievous and constantly tormented whoever he was with. That's why Kakashi resorted to TV, as it would at least occupy him rather than have Naruto cause trouble. This time, however, Naruto took Yugao's sheathed katana and crawled away as fast as possible before she noticed. She knew she should have locked it all up, but she needed to have it accessible in case of anything. Plus, she had managed to doze off, and when she woke up her katana was no longer on the coffee table in front of her. If they ever hear about this, I don't even want to think about it. Shisui and Itachi 2 days later. Shisui stabbed an Iwa Nin in the back and looked to Itachi. You gotta pay more attention, my friend. Shisui said, laughing. I know, apparently not, man. I had to be your hero. You should be madly in love with me. Why are you not? Shisui said, playing around before shunching to another two, and with 2 slashes left, their throats slit before returning to be back-to-back with Itachi. Do you always goof off in battle like this? They have the numbers, said an expressionless Itachi. If I were to ever die, I'd like to die smiling and maybe with a chuckle. Besides, if there was reason to worry, I wouldn't be talking. Instead, I'd be too busy kicking ass. He said, laughing. Besides, these guys are hardly even a threat to most Chunin, let alone us. Itachi could only nod, as he wasn't wrong. These guys were indeed weak and hardly even a fight. If Shisui truly wanted, this would be over in seconds, but he was goofing around. He never let his guard down. He knew a mistake could mean death, however it didn't stop him from goofing around so that it sent more fear to the enemy. In a way, knowing that your opponent could end your life whenever they so chose and was literally just toying with you was far scarier than just outright killing someone. Shisui never gave false hope of a potential victory only to crush you. He just showed that he could kill you in a matter of a few seconds by doing the opposite of that, and taking his time. Oddly, it always worked, as it generally made them run away after a few were killed. Sometimes they got stubborn and futilely tried, but in the end the same result remained, and they'd be killed. Itachi was parrying an attack and quickly pierced a Nin through the heart, and looked at Shisui as they nodded. Instantly they looked to a group of 4, and Shisui's tanto glowed red and a flame appeared on the blade. He ran and made horizontal slash as he crouched down, and the flame arched as it left the blade and hit its target, cutting through and catching him on fire. Itachi had ran behind Shisui and jumped over him doing the same slash, but since he was in air he went diagonally and got a wider arc as it got 2 more. Itachi now. Right. Shisui shunshined behind the last one, while Itachi charged from the front. Both ran towards each other with their swords out, and cut the man from 2 different locations, making him fall to the ground in thirds. The others that remained immediately retreated as there was no hope for them. Alone Shisui was toying with them. Itachi was untouchable, and put the 2 together, that was a wrap. Are they left finally? Shisui said, flicking the blood off his tanto. Maybe we should have done that from the start. So now that we can head home, what do you have planned? Shisui looked to Itachi, who smiled. I think I'll take my sister to the park. You, probably just color with Naruto. Why don't you 2 come with us? Wish I could not allowed to have him leave the house until he's 4 though. Shisui's house had seals that would suppress the Kyuubi's chakra should anything happen. Hiruzen forbid Naruto from leaving the house until he could mold and understood chakra so he could be in more control of it, and never accidentally tap into it. It must suck, not being able to go anywhere with him. Itachi thought, well, when he's older let's get them together. Shisui smiled and agreed. 2 years later, Naruto now was 2 and Itachi 12. Shisui and Itachi continued to become even closer and trusted one another with their lives. Naruto's never-ending energy continued growing and would keep Shisui up till midnight a lot. Shisui began having Naruto chase him around the house to try and drain his energy, which worked at first, but Naruto just got more stamina out of it, and it became more ineffective through time. Naruto's growth in stamina, energy, and even comprehension surprised Shisui a lot. He knew that he held a lot of potential. That energy and stamina would come in handy. No matter how much he expended himself during a day, he would be completely replenished and recovered no later than the next day. With that type of recovery, training could be to insane levels constantly, and he'd be just fine. Aside from taking in his stamina and energy and recovery, Shisui just loved watching Naruto grow every day. He took in and cherished every moment with him as he grew up. He'd learned that in an instant, everything could change. He wasn't going to take anything with Naruto for granted. For Itachi's birthday 2 years ago, he had taught him an interesting genjutsu ability granted through the Sharingan. Flashback. Hey Itachi, come here will you? What's up? I have a gift for you, my friend. Shisui said, smiling wide. Itachi looked around and got confused. What is it? You know you didn't have to get me anything. Itachi was honest. He never expected anything from Shisui. They were best friends, and having him at his side was enough. The same could be said for Shisui. Yeah, I know, but I'm sure you'll get some good use out of this. What is it? Itachi got really interested, as Shisui always was pretty serious about giving him some of the most useful things. Stuff that Itachi used on a regular basis. I am only able to teach you this because you are pretty skilled on genjutsu. Like me, Itachi smiled, however you're nowhere near my level. Shisui said, puffing out his chest and flexing a bit. You goof. Itachi laughed. However, he knew that Shisui was better than him in every category. There wasn't an area where Itachi surpassed him. This technique is called demonic illusion, mirror heaven and earth change. It will allow you to, if placed in a genjutsu, copy it perfectly and reflect it onto the caster as if you were the original caster. All it takes is having the Sharingan. It takes half the chakra than that of what the original caster used to cast it, since you're pretty much just swapping places, if that makes sense. You'll need the Sharingan activated, and if you happen to make eye contact with them in the genjutsu, then instead of half it only takes a quarter of what they used. Wow, Shisui, you don't need to say anything. It's a really good technique that I'm sure you'll get some use out of. At least now, instead of just breaking genjutsu, you can make it your own weapon. Shisui said, smiling. Shisui, this is your own technique. And who else better than my best friend to also have the technique? Flashback end. That same year, since Itachi's birthday landed on June 9th, he decided to return his gratitude by teaching Shisui a jutsu of his own creation as well. Funny enough, Shisui's birthday was 9 days after Naruto, that being October 10th and 19th respectively. Flashback. Hey Itachi, what's up? Itachi had him meet at their favorite spot. They trained a lot here. It was a clearing that had a ravine that cut through it. On one end was a waterfall that made a river at the bottom of it, and on the other it went on until eventually it dropped off. Behind them to enter was some woods, and on the old side of the ravine was another clearing. I finally decided what to have as your gift, Itachi said, smiling. Before you say anything, you did the same, so don't turn into a hypocrite now, he said with a chuckle, as he now knew Shisui couldn't refute. Alright, you got me. What did you have in mind? My exploding shadow clone that has all the uses and pluses of a normal shadow clone, however can detonate and make a devastating explosion depending on how much chakra is put into it. Holy Itachi, you're insane, Shisui laughed. I accept, bro. Flashback end. They had been getting increasingly stronger. Shisui was now bordering on becoming the strongest Uchiha, Itachi being a close second. Neither one cared much for that title, but always helped each other. They always traded jutsu and taught each other all kinds of different techniques that they happened to learn or witness. They were fire jutsu powerhouses, genjutsu masters, kenjutsu masters, shuriken jutsu experts, masters of the Uchiha style, interceptor fist taijutsu style, and even had some skill in fuin jutsu. Last year they made a breakthrough on a really stale jutsu that every single shinobi knew, that being the substitute jutsu. It had been during a sparring session in the Forest of Death. Flashback. Itachi and Shisui were going all out during their sparring session. They always pushed each other to the limits, and didn't hold anything back. They knew the limits of the other, and never did anything lethal. However, they weren't shy to throw jutsus at each other. Shisui launched a fireball jutsu at Itachi with a single hand seal, and it went flying at Itachi. He didn't have enough time to dodge since he wasn't anywhere near as skilled in the shunshin as Shisui, and the jutsu was too close for him to simply evade at top speed. So he was forced to do a substitution. Upon seeing this, Shisui frowned. You know, Itachi, there has to be a better way about going with the substitution jutsu. Itachi stepped out of some bushes as he understood that the spar was over. Generally in some of their spars one would get an idea they'd work until they could make a breakthrough on whether it worked, or if it was possible to then find ways over time. What do you mean? Well, think about it. All shinobi from every part of the world know the substitution. And every single shinobi does it the same exact way. Using a log, it's now predictable. What if we could find a way to change it, and also have it be something so different that it throws them off? How would we go about it? Itachi asked as he now got curious, and two could agree that it was indeed a predictable jutsu. They had been walking through the forest and came upon a clearing, and it was a murder of crows. They were all flying around and doing different things, going in different directions. It was rather distracting. You tried to follow one when another crossed its path and diverted your attention. They both came to the same thoughts of what if they used crows as a substitution. They looked at one another and began saying all the possibilities and where they could implement crows into their styles and just the pure utility of using crows. One thing was for sure, they'd be able to really wreak havoc on their opponents. Using the crows for a substitution would cause confusion and be a great diversion. The crows could also be trained to cut the enemy even. The uses in genjutsu made possibilities limitless, as it would go as far as they could imagine. Couple those together and an enemy would never know if it was a genjutsu or just a substitution. This would be extremely advantageous, as you never wanted your opponent to know your jutsu, as it offered them chances to develop strategies. Maybe even clones could be made of crows, similar to how clones could be made of elemental chakra. Instantly they began testing things and trained in implementing crows in various ways. Another benefit was using them as messengers instead, since all villages used hawks. Using a crow would allow them to always make it to their destination, since no one expects a crow to be used. They had so much excitement for the uses of their new techniques that all stemmed from the thought of improving and diversifying the widely used substitution jutsu. Flashback end. It was 2 a.m. and Shisui managed to get Naruto asleep at 11, so he was enjoying his sleep. That was until there was a tapping on his window. This jolted him up as his Sharingan flared to life and got ready to fight. He relaxed when he saw the crow. Itachi? What's wrong? Shisui knew where to go, and got his things then left to their spot. It was their favorite not only for its openness and even the diversity it may offer, as there were woods, the ravine, many different opportunities were granted for training. The other main reason was that it was really secluded and no one ever went there. They could be alone and talk about whatever they wished without fear of anyone listening in. Shisui approached Itachi, who looked really worried and distraught. What's wrong, Itachi? Shisui, things are about to get bad soon. What do you mean? The clan is getting infuriated and might do something. What, why? As you know, the clan was pushed to the outskirts of the village, stripped of political power, lost a lot responsibility within their police force duties, and have been started to be doubted and suspected as culprits of the Nine Tails incident. Shisui nodded at hearing this. He didn't know how it was affecting the clan since he didn't live with them. He was the only Uchiha member that wasn't in the Uchiha compound, and that was because of Naruto being the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. They were by the forest of death and in their own secluded area. That served to aggravate the clan as they were forced to up and move while many other clans didn't have to and didn't get quite as strict rules, nor did any other lose political power or responsibilities. That's not what is leading to the actions that might be made. It is a part, and is what is sowing the seeds, but the rise is due to Uchiha members going missing. This revelation shocked Shisui to his core. He hadn't been aware of members of the clan disappearing. He didn't any harm coming to his clan, but he was on the complete other side of the village. He never knew what was going on. From the sound of it, Itachi only recently became aware. The clan is thinking of revolting. They want their power back. They want to have it all back. They want retribution for the ones that caused the disappearances of clan members who are most likely dead, Itachi said, looking down. If the clan takes this course of action, it would be devastating for both sides. And in the end, the village would fall. Civil war would weaken it. The tensions with the other villages have been increasing rapidly since the Nine Tails incident, and the civil war would cause them to jump at the opportunity and crush us. Itachi nodded. Shisui understood the situation clearly, and there would be a serious issue soon. They got worried and Itachi really didn't know what to do. Shisui, what do we do? The concern evident. Honestly, I don't know, Itachi. This isn't like preparing for any other mission. This is delicate, and could very well pave the future of the village. Then Itachi looked down with tears forming. If Shisui didn't know what to do, then what was he supposed to do? Shisui was always the one with the answers and always the one he could go to. If he didn't know, then was it hopeless? Shisui noticed what Itachi must have been thinking. Don't worry, Itachi. Remember when I told you that if there's a way to find peace in the world, we'd find it? I believe in that. Itachi nodded, feeling reassured by Shisui. He always knew how to make some dire, helpless situation become less so and make him feel like he could endure anything. How he would need that. We need to gather intel and find any piece that leads to the plans of the clan, also who the ones planning this are. We also will need to look into the disappearances, and if we could find who's behind that, maybe we could end all of this. Itachi nodded as he understood Shisui. Naturally, he would be the one gathering intel within the clan since he lived in the compound, while Shisui would try to find out about the disappearances since he was outside. One more thing, Itachi, Shisui said in a serious tone, more serious than ever before. If worse comes to worse, we'll need to pick a side. The both of them looked up into the starry sky. I know. Itachi, yes, Shisui? Itachi could see Itachi running towards him. It was a funny sight to see, the way he was running. If someone that didn't know him were to see, would never guess he was a shinobi, let alone the most powerful Uchiha currently. 2 more years had done a lot in his development. Itachi, who used to be a close second, was no longer so close. He didn't mind much though. That was never his goal. Naruto's birthday is next week. As you know, he'll be turning 6 and can leave home. I'm still figuring out where to take him, but I want you to be there, Shisui said, smiling to his best friend. Of course I'll come. You can bring your sister if you like. With that, Shisui shined off and was gone that instant. Itachi laughed at his friend's antics, and it brought him some joy despite all that was going on. Everything with the clan continued getting worse, and it seemed that nothing was going to change its course. They'd been worried that this could happen, but now that it was, Itachi didn't want to think of that. He knew soon they'd have to do something. However, Shisui assured him that he had a plan if all else failed. He had an idea on what it was, but didn't know how it would affect Shisui. Whatever it was, he'd be by his best friend's side. His thoughts went to his sister. Should he bring her? It would be an interesting first meeting since she'd go to a birthday of whom she didn't know. That had to be awkward, right? Whatever choice he made, he would go and be there. He got to see Naruto every now and then when he stopped by at Shisui's. Damn, I missed the chance of asking if he would invite Yugao. Itachi chuckled to himself. He knew Shisui had some feelings for the Umbu but had never acted on them. Hokage Tower, Sandame-sama, Shisui said, bowing. Yes, Shisui-san? As you know, Naruto's birthday is next week. Would you be able to come? I know he is fond of you and would like to see you. I wouldn't miss it. I'm sure you are trying to figure out where to go. Yugao was telling me that she might have accidentally got him hooked on some ramen, maybe Ichiraku's? Yeah, first Kakashi gets him on TV, then she goes and gets him addicted to that stuff, Shisui said, shaking his head. I know if it was up to him he'd eat it every meal of the day, every day. It's not even healthy at that point. Hiruzen chuckled at seeing Shisui's behavior. He always was a goofy ninja, but he was of the most loyal shinobi he ever had. He knew that Shisui would walk 1,000 miles of fire and burning coals if given the command. Yugao was an Umbu and was currently one of Hokage's guards. She had snickered at hearing the conversation. In her defense, she didn't purposely get him hooked, she just didn't feel like cooking, so she stopped at Ichiraku's and took some to go. Little did she know the little rascal would love it and be addicted like it was a drug. That reminds me, Hokage-sama, if you see her later, could you extend an invitation? Why don't you just ask her yourself? Sure gulped and got really nervous. He didn't know that Yugao was above watching and listening, but thinking of her got him nervous all the time. Because he said in an oddly higher-pitched voice, Hiruzen was dying on the inside, it took every shred of him to hold the laughter. He knew very well why Shisui was nervous, and as such was trying to tug some strings since he obviously knew that Yugao was above them. Because why? Just Hokage-sama, okay? Shisui forced out. Fine, haha, I'll be sure to let her know for you. Thank you? Shisui disappeared. I'm a puff of smoke. Ah man, if only he knew you were just above. Hiruzen said, laughing as he could no longer hold it in. Yugao blushed as she could figure out what had happened and why he was nervous. Maybe this was the event that could get them together? She was fond of Naruto, and he seemed fond of her in return, so there was no issue there. The only issue was that Shisui seemed too nervous to tell her, and she wouldn't ever tell him, so they were at a crossroads. During her time watching Naruto over the 6 years, she and Shisui got closer. She had started liking him probably around 4 years ago. She had suspicions that he liked her as well, but only now was confirmed. She remembered how Shisui teased her to no end about Naruto stealing and hiding her katana. She was running around frantically, and only managed to find Naruto. He couldn't talk, but she knew he understood very well what he did. He had such a devious grin and eyes that had pure mischief in them. Then Shisui walked in and saw Naruto with that look and knew something was up. Then when he heard of the situation, he burst out laughing like no tomorrow. He kept it between the three of them, and she was glad for that, but he never let her live it down. The funniest thing was that Naruto hid it in plain sight. See, he did that purposely, as you generally wouldn't expect it. Your mind instantly looks for what would be a good place out of sight or offered cover. However, he would use that against you and place things in plain sight since you wouldn't expect it. Shisui didn't know how Naruto could plan that, but when he did it repeatedly rather than just being a one-time fluke, he knew that Naruto understood very well what he had been doing. Ever since Naruto had been 3, Shisui taught him all about chakra, not use but just knowledge, as he didn't want to start Naruto on that just yet. He did start Naruto's kendo training as well as basic taijutsu forms. There was an interesting development that forced Naruto to stay home after being 4. Shisui really wanted to take him out and have fun with him for his birthday, but it seemed fate had other plans. On his birthday, he awakened the Sharingan at age 4. It was a scary moment to Shisui since Naruto was in danger, but traumatizing to Naruto. He had been so happy at the beginning of the day. Flashback. Naruto, you ready? You're going to miss your own birthday, man. Shisui called out, laughing. Naruto was taking forever to get ready. He couldn't blame him. This would be his first time leaving home, first time in the outside. It was a big moment. One Naruto had been anxious for ever since he could understand. Naruto finally came into living room wearing a black sleeveless hoodie with an orange t-shirt underneath, as well as black wristbands and black shorts with black sandals. You look good, Naruto. Thank you. Nissan that brought smile to Shisui. They were cousins, but he was happy to see that Naruto saw him as a brother. Oh crap. Hey, there's something I have to go do really quick, okay? I'll be right back. Wait here, alright? Ah man, make me wait longer. You're cruel, you know that? Naruto said, holding back a laugh. I'm sorry, Naruto. It'll be fast, I promise. You better. Shisui just laughed and ruffled his spiky hair. Hey, I'll be back before you know it. Naruto watched as Shisui just disappeared in a puff of smoke and was fascinated by how he just vanished. Annoyed, he went and sat on the couch. About 10 minutes later, and he heard the lock jingling around, then the door open. He thought it was Shisui. Nissan. Wait, who are you two? These two people had masks and a black cloak on. He'd never seen anyone with the animal masks before. Well, he did see Shisui's old one and Yugao's before, but those had some color. Some identity. These masks were blank, stripped of individuality and colorless. They just stared down at Naruto. He didn't know what was happening, but he felt that something bad was going to happen. He had no skills to defend himself. Yes, he was learning, but that would not matter, not against these guys. If they wished him harm, he was powerless and could do nothing. He was trying to think of what to do. He was so scared. He started to shake. They were releasing some weird feeling that he never felt before. It was like they could put their thoughts and feelings of wanting to kill him into the atmosphere for him to feel and crumble under. He fell to his knees, and in so much fear he was crippled, he couldn't move a muscle. All he could do is watch as one started slowly walking to him. He watched as he drew his katana. It was a rather beautiful blade. Naruto loved looking into the blades of different swords, always feeling like it always held a different story, never thinking he'd look at one in this way. The sword's tip was facing the ceiling and in emotion, started coming down to cut his head clean off. Naruto watched, and at first it all happened so fast until it was 8 inches away from his neck. He looked at the blade and it felt like time slowed down. He could watch in extreme detail as his death approached him. For some reason he couldn't close his eyes, but they also burned. It was an odd sensation, and Naruto wanted all of it to end. That was when there was a blur in front of him, a clang sound, and the two intruders were dead. He blinked a few times, spacing out. He couldn't hear who was calling to him. All he heard was muffling. His vision was failing him and he started to fall back. Shisui caught him as he passed out and noticed Naruto's now awakened Sharingan. Naruto, I'm sorry. Shisui started crying. He never imagined someone would attack the house. For 4 years there was no incident. He got complacent. A mistake he'll never make again. Now there was an issue at hand. First, he wouldn't figure out who those worked for since some seal activated, and their bodies disappeared. Second, Naruto would begin training his Sharingan every day and would not leave the house until Shisui felt he could defend himself enough to either get away or for help to arrive. He also wanted to have Naruto's Sharingan potentially fully developed, but if not, that was fine. At least the two Tomo will allow him to keep up with most jounin. But he needed to work on his speed. With the Sharingan you could perceive moments slower since you're able to see ahead in a way. This allows you to defend and counter if your body is fast enough to keep up. Otherwise you suffer a fate that all Uchiha suffer one day, that is watching their death in complete slow motion helpless. Flashback end. Itachi was a huge support to Shisui. His anger had been limitless at the time, and he wanted to lash out on anyone. Yuga was soothing when she was around, and he could feel his anger and all the pain from the past slowly fade. Much like Itachi was for him. Hiruzen was also livid. He knew very well who was at fault, but there was no evidence, so he couldn't act on it. That year, Naruto fully developed his Sharingan, and at age 5 had already mastered the basics in genjutsu with help of the Sharingan. His taijutsu was exponentially better as now he began training in the Uchiha-style interceptor fist, and had his basics of general taijutsu mastered at 5 as well. At the moment his quick development was mostly out of his Sharingan's ability to copy and analyze everything so he could learn faster. Shisui made sure he understood that just because something may get copied, doesn't mean it is mastered in any way. You still have to get into physical uses of it before you can be mastered, and even then, no jutsu is considered mastered until you can do it with one or no hand signs. Naruto wasn't learning jutsu, much to his annoyance, but he understood that mastery over just his weapons is far greater than jutsu mastery. Using a sword takes no chakra, nor does shuriken or kunai. Of course you can use chakra to make jutsu with them, but it is nowhere near the toll of elemental jutsu. Naruto every day ran and ran non-stop. Shisui was working him so hard every day that it ended with him passed out on the ground every night. Yet every morning he got back up and went at it again. For 2 years straight, non-stop every day, Naruto trained his heart out. He was now to the point where his base speed was low Jonin level, and now Shisui would begin teaching him the Shunshin. Naruto had to definitely get used to it, as it made Shisui laugh every time Naruto crashed into something. But he was very young and normally only Chunin and up really start using the body flicker. All in all, Naruto developed remarkably, and he was proud. Itachi was also surprised at how well Naruto was and even did sword spars with him. He wasn't surprised when Naruto could hold his own for quite a while against him, even managing to nearly force a yield. However, experience wasn't on his side, and he'd end up losing. Hiruzen came by often after the incident, and would spend time with Naruto, teaching him philosophy and the wonders of the world. Naruto was fascinated with the amount of stories this man had. Then again, he was a pretty old fellow. Kakashi got a little distant as his Anbu duties took a toll on him, but he loved spending time with Naruto. He and Naruto always watched TV together, much to Shisui's annoyance, but they had a bond and Naruto really looked up to the man. Currently Naruto was reading a book on genjutsu theory. He was fascinated in the art since it was a way of fighting without fighting. He knew that if he could be a master in the field, he could get through anyone without having to raise a sword. He liked the prospect of turning his imagination into his weapon. If you lose your mind, you are dead. So he would try to learn to be one of the most deadly attackers of the mind. Naruto. What are you reading? Hey Nisan, I'm reading a book on genjutsu that Itachi Nisan gave me. Shisui smiled as he was glad that Naruto really liked his best friend. Would you like to learn one? Naruto jumped up in excitement, and in the blink of an eye he was jumping up and down in front of Shisui. All he did was laugh at Naruto's actions since it was so childish and goofy. Depending on how well you learn this one, I'll teach you another. Okay, let's go. Naruto practically dragged Shisui all the way to their indoor dojo. Alright, this is a D-rank genjutsu. It's the demonic illusion, hell viewing technique. What does it do? You'll be able to make the victim see something that scares them. They'll first be surrounded in a swirl of leaves and then be thrown in the world of your illusion where they'll see something they fear. The effects of the illusion and how effective it is based on your mastery. The leaves can eventually be changed to something else, and the world can be more manipulated to be stringer and less noticeable as you master it. It can be a simple D rank, or even A rank based on your mastery and effectiveness. Oh wow! Teach me, I have a challenge for you, Naruto. If you master this genjutsu in 6 days, I'll take you to Ichiraku's for your birthday. Naruto's eyes lit up and instantly began training. God, I love this kid so much, so determined, and no matter what, faces everything with a smile. I can't wait to see the ninja you become. Shisui backed up and was now watching from a distance as Naruto began practicing and getting the muscle memory of the hand signs down. You think it wise he began learning jutsu? Ah, Kakashi. How are you? I'm fine. How's he doing? He's doing pretty well. And I think it's fine, it's only a genjutsu. He wants to become a master in the field. Want to know why? Shisui said, looking at Kakashi. He wants to have a tool so that he can fight without fighting. He understands that if you can attack the mind, then the person will fall. I don't blame him. If I were more adept in genjutsu like you and Itachi, I'd have loved to master the art as well. Are you teaching him the hell viewing technique? Kakashi had been watching the hand signs that Naruto was making and recognized them. Yeah. I want to see how he does with this one and how well he can control it. If he has the prowess, he'll be able to form the world to his will, and it will no longer be a D rank and will border on the technique that I use. Shisui said, hopeful of Naruto's potential. The only other person he could really teach his genjutsu to was Itachi, yet for some reason Itachi couldn't quite grasp it. Are you serious? That can be dangerous. I'm very serious. Ever since that incident, I understand. Listen, if you need help with his ninjutsu training, I'll be there. As you know, I have quite a large arsenal. Kakashi said with determination, as he was also infuriated when he learned of the attack on Naruto. I appreciate it, Kakashi. I would really like that. My jutsu only come from fire, and if I'm right, he might potentially have 3. How do you know? Uchiha have fire, that's a given. His father had lightning as well though. His mother had a strong affinity to wind and some water. I'm sure he definitely has the fire, and most likely has lightning since normally the element is passed down from the father, so he would most likely have those as main elements. But him having the Uzumaki blood and the fact he already has a ton of chakra, it's safe to assume he might have inherited his mother's wind. I wouldn't say the water just because that was a sub-element, and as such probably wouldn't get passed to him. While he's got potential to be a ninjutsu powerhouse, genjutsu master, and even a master in the sword, Kakashi whistled at that. That only scratches the surface of his potential. Imagine how much faster he'll develop when he learns the shadow clones? Or when he starts learning to control the power of the Kyuubi, or when he really starts mastering the powers of the Sharingan. Damn, Shisui. Oh. Before I forget, would you come to Naruto's birthday next week? You know it. Have you finally decided on where to go with him? Ya kinda made it a wager. Kakashi laughed at that. If he masters this genjutsu within 6 days, we'll celebrate at Ichiraku's. Wait to light the fire under him. Now he'll definitely be motivated to master it. Yeah, I'll take him there regardless. He loves their ramen and I want him to be happy his first time out of the house. Ha ha ha, you can be cruel. Kakashi said, laughing, since if Naruto doesn't master it he'll be upset, since not only he couldn't master it but also won't get ramen. It would be a nice surprise, or a great reward. Man, you know? I still don't know what to gift him. Yeah, you always were over the top with your gifts. But they truly were useful and held sentimental value. Yeah, he's so young, I don't want to have him burdened. I know he really wants to learn. Maybe I'll teach him the Uchiha signature jutsu. That would mean something. His first ninjutsu should be none other than the family jutsu. Hey Shisui, I wanted your permission on something. What is it? You know how much I loved Sensei. As such, Naruto means a lot to me if he has a strong lightning affinity. Of course, Kakashi. It would be an honor if you taught him your jutsu. Kakashi nodded thankfully to him. Everything seemed so happy now, they felt like it could never end as they watched the bundle of joy train in front of them. Hokage office. Itachi-kun. How are you? Not well, Lord. Third, the clan is dead set on their plans. I fear within a year at most they'll revolt. Hiruzen lost his smile. This was serious. He didn't want this to happen. He really truly cared for the Uchiha, no doubt about that. One of his best friends had been an Uchiha. This would only spell disaster for everyone. Anything that we can do? At this stage in the game, I'm doubtful. Hiruzen looked down, however he looked into Itachi's once more. Shisui told me that if all else had failed, he had a plan. I trust him. Bring him in tomorrow. Hi. Next day, Hokage meeting room. In the room when Itachi and Shisui both appeared in, they noticed Hiruzen along with the village elders. Danzo being to Hiruzen's right with the other two, Hamura and Kohara to the left. Thank you for coming. Before we begin, can you please brief the elders on the situation? Shisui and Itachi gave them the rundown on the situation. They looked shocked and worried except for Danzo. He seemed to have had knowledge all along in some way. He couldn't be behind it all, could he? Hiruzen, I've told you from the beginning. The Uchiha are not to be trusted. It was only a matter of time before a coup took place. Danzo. How dare you? Do you forget that one of our closest friends was Kagami Uchiha? Minato was one, for crying out loud. Hiruzen said, they are the few versus the many. They truly valued the village over the clan, however the Uchiha now can't be trusted. We must strike first, and take them all out. Danzo, enough of this. I will not strike a leaf ally. You're too soft, Hiruzen. Danzo said in disgust. Lord Third, if I may, Shisui said. What is it, Shisui? Please tell me you have a plan. Enough, Hiruzen. Don't listen to this Uchiha. We must strike. Silence. Go ahead, Shisui. I can stop the coup. In 5 days, they will gather the clan. I will use my Kodo Amatsukami on Fugaku-sama, and he will end the revolt. What? How? Danzo asked. My Kodo Amatsukami is a special genjutsu, the strongest there is. I can activate on someone and practically control them. I can alter memories or fabricate new ones. I would make him believe that he no longer wants the revolt and plan for peace. He would never know. He would think it's what he always wanted out of his own free will. The entire room gasped in shock. The implications and use of such jutsu were absolutely crazy. This was pretty much the pinnacle of genjutsu. Danzo narrowed his eye as he didn't trust such jutsu in the hands of an Uchiha. Hiruzen gained hope that maybe this could work while the elders were caught in the middle. Itachi looked at Shisui in concern. He knew from what Shisui said what the cost was, and even if that wasn't an issue, it must hurt knowing that you are just controlling somebody to your will. Shisui had his eyes closed as he was thinking about what he just suggested, but there was no other choice. This had to be done. Very well, Shisui, I will allow you to do this. Hiruzen, you can't be serious. Enough, Danzo. Hi. Thank you, Sandaime-sama. Shisui said with a bow from his kneeling position. 5 days, in 5 days the revolt will be over and they can be peaceful within the village. Naruto wouldn't have to live through civil war, and he could meet his Uchiha clansmen. In 5 days everything could be over and they can continue being happy together. Itachi, Naruto, Kakashi, Hiruzen Yugao, they can all be together secured in 5 days. Shisui and Itachi were walking together and had been silent for a while. They didn't really know how to feel. Things would end in 5 days, but also Shisui would carry the guilt of know that he's manipulated someone's mind to his will. Shisui. Are you sure? Yes, Itachi. If I do this, the revolt is over. We can live in peace together within the village. Naruto won't have to live through civil war, and we can all be a family. You, Kakashi, Naruto, it's for you guys. Shisui. Listen, friend, don't worry, okay? I got this. Shisui said, smiling. I'm going to go see Naruto's progress on the genjutsu. See you around, Itachi. If it's for you too, I'll do anything. No matter the cost. 5 days later, Shisui woke up and walked into Naruto's room. He wasn't in there. That was puzzling to Shisui. He must have trained all night. He went into the dojo and found Naruto laying on the floor with the widest smile he'd ever seen. For you and Itachi, I will do anything for you. Shisui thought with a smile. Hey, Naruto. Shisui said, shaking Naruto awake. Huh? Oh, Ni-san. Guess what? What's up? Shisui said with a smile. He had an idea on what Naruto was about to say. I mastered it. I narrowed it down to one hand sign and also can activate it without physical contact. Wait, what? Without physical contact? Yeah, found out by accident. Pointed to a random person walking by, and next thing I knew I put them in my genjutsu. I ended it quickly, but yeah, I don't need physical contact to use the genjutsu. Naruto, am I in trouble? Sorta, not really. Next time don't just do that, but I understand that you didn't know you could. But I'm proud of you, Naruto. I didn't think you'd have such mastery. Not even I can do that genjutsu without some sort of contact to get my chakra in their system. Whoa, Ni-san, I'm awesome. Haha, yes you are, Naruto. He ruffled Naruto's hair. You might very well surpass me one day. Shisui thought with a smile. So now what will I learn? I'll give you a scroll later, it'll have a few things in it. But as the deal promised, tomorrow we'll go to Ichiraku's for your birthday. Yay! Ramen. Haha, go get some rest, Naruto. He nodded his head and left to go get cleaned up and rest up. He was so excited and couldn't wait for tomorrow. He thought it was going to be the best day ever. 4 hours before clan meeting. Lord Danzo, you wanted to meet me? Danzo stood in front of him and nodded. He looked at him impassively, and just internally judging the Uchiha in front of him. How do you know this will work? The genjutsu can't just be broken, it would only end or change on my choice. Even if I died, the jutsu would remain active. Yes, but what of the other Uchiha? Surely there are many that would revolt regardless. How can you be sure of that? How can you be sure that in the future the same situation won't happen again? What do you mean? Let's say it works out now, what's to stop the clan in the future from following the same path down the road? It got here now once, even if you stop Fugaku, the generation has already decided to take action. What stops them? Fugaku-sama will. They'll listen to him. I doubt that. As such, I believe I shall take your eyes and keep them in my safekeeping. Danzo lunged at Shisui, trying to take an eye from him. Forgive me, Koto Amatsukami. Shisui began walking away from Danzo when suddenly out of nowhere he felt a punch to the gut and kick to the chest. The hell? He saw Danzo appear in front of him. He was extremely confused at this. He also noticed that he felt strangely now, like he was getting weaker and weaker. Danzo came at him again, attempting to get an eye, and Shisui's eyes widened. Danzo came so fast, there was no time he was about to get his eye when suddenly a green aura came and then threw Danzo back. Susanoo, Shisui said, and the ribcage formed around him, shielding him from Danzo and saved his eyes. He noticed his weakness coming more and more, so he had to flee. He shined into the forest. 12 Root Umbu appeared by Danzo. Go get the eyes. Kill him if necessary. He won't get far with the poison in his system. They all left after Shisui and began chasing him. They threw kunai with explosive tags attached to them at Shisui, forcing him to constantly have to body flicker. If this drags out, whatever Danzo did to me will kill me before I can warn Itachi. He body flickered behind on Umbu and killed him before the others threw more kunai at him. He shined to a branch 50 feet away and was trying to catch his breath. He fell to knee and felt himself getting weaker. No, I won't die just yet. Susanoo, his full Susanoo came to existence, protecting him. It threw the Umbu back and they landed in a clearing. He shot chakra needles at high speeds at them and killed them all. His Susanoo dispersed as he was becoming too weak and tired. The pain of using Susanoo was excruciating and unique. It felt as if every cell in your body was on fire. Danzo appeared, and so did 40 more Root Umbu in front of Shisui. He knew he was in no condition to take them on at the moment, and also knew he didn't have the strength to run away quick enough now. The poison was deadly. I must admit, you are quite the formidable opponent, Shisui Uchiha. However, this will be your end. Screw you, Danzo. I will not die yet. There is still. He couldn't continue as he started coughing up a lot of blood. What do I do? Out of nowhere there were large explosions in the clearing. When the smoke cleared, Shisui was gone. Damn it. He got away. Retreat. Itachi? What are you doing here? Shisui was starting to look more pale and his face was covered in sweat. Itachi gave him a saddened smile. I had a bad feeling and came running. I'm sorry to worry you, my friend, Shisui said, looking up at Itachi and coughing. Itachi helped pick him up and took them to their training spot. Shisui was looking across the ravine with Itachi behind him, looking at him with worry and sadness. Itachi Danzo's poisoned me. He tried to take my eyes. He doesn't trust me at all. Itachi's eyes widened and wanted to question, but Shisui continued. I wouldn't doubt it if Danzo was behind everything from the beginning. It all kind of makes sense now. Do we go take him out? No, Itachi, he's a leaf elder, and as such that is treason. We can't do anything. I can't do anything. What do you mean? Itachi now was on the verge of crying but was holding it in. This poison he used, it will kill me before morning, I suspect. Listen, Itachi, you're my best friend. Shisui, please. Tears started to fall slowly. Just listen, Itachi, I found within you and Naruto what was lost within me. You two have brought me so much happiness these past 6 years and I will forever be thankful for that. In a world so cold and dark, I'm glad you guys came along. Danzo will probably come for my eyes again. Before that happens, I'm going to give them to you to hold on to. What? I can't let him take these eyes. They contain a power that he should never have. You also can't tell anyone of this except Lord Third. I want you to give my eyes to Naruto when the time comes. Shisui then took his eyes out and handed them to Itachi. Shisui, don't do this, please. I'm a dead man anyways. As such, I'll give you a new power to protect those we cherish and to bring honor to the Uchiha named the Mangekyo Sharingan. No, don't do it, please. I am sorry, Itachi, that I won't be there to help you along this now dark and tough path you will most likely have to walk. It will get lonely and you'll feel like you can't continue, but you must. Here, take my tanto. I figured it out, and I want to gift this to Naruto. Ah man. I promised Naruto Ichiraku's tomorrow he's gonna kill me. Shisui chuckled. Shisui, we can find a way. Itachi was looking far more worried than ever. Don't give me that look, Itachi. Even without my eyes I can clearly see the worry in your face. That's never been a good look for you. You must always be calm. That's who Itachi Uchiha is. You don't have to do this. You're my best friend, Itachi. Look after Naruto and Suzuki, okay? Protect them. And the Uchiha named Shisui began to take a few steps back. If you're truly my friend, you won't stop me. He then took a step off and fell backwards into the ravine. Itachi lunged forward trying to catch him but couldn't, and when he was out of reach he shouted Shisui. He stood up and overlooked the ravine. Tears flowing from his black eyes, then sudden they became red and a black three-pronged shuriken that connected to the sides spun in his eyes and he closed them. He now awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. Something's wrong, Naruto reached and clutched his heart. It was 9:30 p.m. and Shisui still hadn't returned. He left at 4 and said he'd be back in a few hours, 9 at the latest. For some reason he had a bad feeling since Shisui left. Now it felt like part of his heart died, and he didn't know why there was a sinking feeling. He walked into the dojo and began training. That usually got his mind off of anything bothering. He had been so happy from mastering his genjutsu the night prior, and was already trying to imagine ways to build from it. Sadly, it was an already made jutsu, so the only building was the fact he can do it without physical contact. Also, the framework of the jutsu wasn't one he could manipulate. It was just an illusion of what someone feared. The more chakra then a situation appears where someone's deepest fear is realized, like watching someone they love die. That was as far as it went. He had been reading that true genjutsu masters, however, don't just use a genjutsu that anyone uses. In fact, their imagination is what powers it. Naruto questioned if he could reach that level, but honestly he wasn't sure. He would certainly try. If Shisui believed in him, he wouldn't let him down. The doorbell rang and it brought Naruto out of his thoughts and training. He left the dojo and went towards the front door with a towel and water. He was surprised to see who was at the door. Itachi Ni-san, Uncle Kakashi, Gigi? What's going on? Naruto asked, puzzled. The faces they had, well, the two he could see had a sadness. Itachi was filled with regret. Kakashi's lone eye showed that he was upset and hated that Naruto had to deal with this. Guys? Is this something wrong? I've had a bad feeling for the past 7 hours. Ni-san said he'd be back 2 hours ago at the latest. Naruto now was feeling the sinking go down further and further. It was like someone was squeezing his heart, and it was pulled down towards his stomach. Naruto-kun, Shisui is dead, Itachi said with tears now coming out again. He couldn't contain it. He tried so hard but felt impossible. No. No, you're lying. He wouldn't leave, no. Naruto screamed out, crying his anger and pain, his sadness. He felt empty and crushed. The one who was always there, the one always by his side and supported him, believed in him. No way, he was gone. Every single memory with him came crashing back. The times he chased Shisui around the house, their coloring, his teachings, cooking with him and playing with him, everything played back in front of him. No, it can't be. Suddenly they saw his eyes glow red. They were worried that this news made him snap and the QB was taking over, but were surprised when his Sharingan was spinning wildly. It can't be Itachi, said as he watched Naruto's eyes. Sure enough, the tomo started growing in size and changing shape. They formed triangles that connected at the bases with the tips reaching the sides of his eye. Now there were 6 triangles within his eyes, forming a hexagon in the centers with a black circle on the center of that, and a thin black ring encircled the middles of the triangle. His Mangekyo flared to life, and when he closed his eyes to cry, he grabbed his head and dropped to his knees. He looked back up one last time in hopes they were for some reason lying to him, but only saw their sadness in the situation. His eyes had gone back to normal, and the Mangekyo wasn't there anymore. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore and collapsed. Lord Third, what do we do? Asked Kakashi. I'm not sure. I'll stay with him. Shisui wanted me to give him something. I'll give it to him in the morning. You sure, Itachi? Yes, Lord Third. I also need to see about his eyes. If it was a true awakening or just a flare like how it was when I first unlocked the Sharingan. Understood, Itachi. I am deeply sorry. If you need anything, let me know. Hiruzen said and disappeared in a puff of smoke. I know you're not one of many words, Captain Kakashi, but I'm going to be fine. We are shinobi. Our lives are to endure. You need me, don't hesitate to call. Thank you, Captain. Itachi was now left alone with Naruto. He took him to his room and laid him on his bed. His tears were falling freely and wondered how he could follow Shisui's wishes. He was his strength and idol and best friend. Now he only had Sasuke and now Naruto. How would he go on? The next morning Naruto woke up a bit groggy. He looked around and saw Itachi beside him. Then the memories of last night came into mind and he started crying. The day before he thought today would be the happiest day he ever had. Hey there, Naruto-kun. How are you? How are you? That's what you have to say. Do you know what it's like to? He looked down in shame. This was Itachi. He and Shisui were the best of friends, and of course he knew how it felt to lose someone close to you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. It's okay. I know how you're feeling. Does it ever go away? The pain? I don't know. All I know is that every day it helps you get stronger so that you can honor their memory. He said, putting his hand on Naruto's shoulder. I was finally making him proud. He looked to the picture on his dresser of him and Shisui. I was starting to really get to where he always believed. Naruto-kun, he was always proud of you. He always talked about you and how you lit up his world. Itachi said, smiling with a tear. Look, he wanted me to give you some things. He took out a rectangular box and a scroll. In the box had Shisui's tanto. Naruto had watched him clean and sharpen it all the time. He smiled at seeing it, and held its handle and rubbed the blade. Itachi could only smile. He knew that getting the sword meant a lot. The scroll had a couple fire jutsu, and 2 more genjutsu along with a note. Naruto, now that you can leave the house, figured it's time to start your ninjutsu training. The first is the Great Fireball Jutsu. It's a clan jutsu and specialty. Practice these over a river until you master them. The next is the Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Now to increase your genjutsu arsenal, the first is a C rank called Demonic Illusion, False Surroundings. You can change the appearance of the objects around you. At its highest level you can make the surrounding area completely change in a sense. The second is an A rank called Bringer of Darkness, where the victim no longer can see and is in a world of darkness. There is no breaking it unless someone else breaks it for them. It will be harder to learn since it's the highest ranked jutsu you've ever learned, but I know you can do it. If you need help you can always ask me or Itachi. Happy birthday, Naruto. Naruto had tears streaming down his eyes. Shisui always gave the most useful gifts, Itachi said, breaking the silence. I'm going to go train Itachi Nisan. I'll see you around. One more thing, Naruto-kun, can you activate your Sharingan for me? Sure? Naruto did as he was told. Now try channeling more chakra into it. Naruto tried, but there was no change. His A-haste remained the normal 3-tomo Sharingan. Thank God. Looks like you can't activate it yet. That buys more time. Why did you want me to put more chakra into my Sharingan? No reason. Just curious. Hey Naruto-kun, I know you train daily nonstop, but now that you're allowed to see the village, would you like to? No. Why not? I don't really care anymore. I was excited before, but now I just want to get stronger to make Nisan proud. Itachi nodded. He wasn't going to argue with him, and if he didn't want to do it then he wouldn't force him. Naruto-kun? I have an idea. Want to learn something Shisui and I develop together? Naruto jumped and was ready to go. Where to? Itachi chuckled. He took him to a clearing in the forest of death and had him watch as he dispersed in a flock of crows and reform elsewhere. Also like a clone, except without just vanishing or smoke as indication of a shadow clone, it's crows. Fascinating. That's not all, Naruto-kun. We came up with this out of trying to improve the substitution jutsu. This can also be applied to genjutsu. Naruto got all giddy and started learning. The funny thing was, the crow clones work just like shadow clones but at half the chakra cost and in reform wherever without the cost of chakra. The only chakra spent is the original creation of said clone. 4 hours later, he really does learn remarkably fast. Itachi thought as he overlooked Naruto training with the crows. Already he was implementing them in various ways and figuring out how he could use them in genjutsu. Alright Naruto-kun, let's get something to eat. Okay. Can we go see Gigi? Sure, Hokage Tower. Happy birthday Naruto-kun. Thanks, how's it going Gigi? Just a lot of work. What have you been doing today? Hiruzen was curious since Naruto had gotten terrible news just the night before and was worried for him. Itachi Nissen taught me how to use crows for jutsu. Can you show me? Hi. Naruto brought his right hand up, closes in a fist except his index and middle finger were pointing upwards, and then crows flew together and formed a clone of himself. He then had it disperse and reform on the other side of Itachi. He formed another clone and had it stand beside him. They then all dispersed and Hiruzen watched slightly confused when he realized what Naruto did. He chuckled and turned around. Very good, Naruto-kun. So you can make clones and use it in genjutsu. Yes, and in the substitution jutsu. You learned a lot today, Naruto-kun. I'm impressed. How about at 5, we go for ramen? Thank you very much. Can Itachi Nisan and Uncle Kakashi and Yugao-sensei come? Sure. More the merrier. See you later, Gigi. Itachi Nisan said something about meeting somebody. Okay, Naruto-kun, see you two later. The two walked out and started walking through the village heading south. So Itachi Nisan, who am I meeting? My little sister. Itachi was smiling. In truth, they would have met 2 years ago, but then Naruto was attacked. After about 30 minutes of walking, they came to the entrance of the Uchiha compound. There was a large gateway and inside had like its own mini village. There were shops, restaurants and houses off course. In the center of the compound was the police headquarters, and a few blocks from that was where Itachi's family lived. So what's she like? Itachi smiled thinking about her. She's a little shorter than you, kind and caring, not quite as goofy as you. But she is really smart. Sounds interesting. They were walking through the compound and Naruto noticed some looks of malice. The clan didn't recognize him since it was his first time in. They obviously didn't seem to like outsiders in the compound. This puzzled Naruto. Kill them. Kill them all. Huh? Who said that? Itachi looked at Naruto curiously. He didn't hear anyone say anything. Kill them, it will end the pain. Kill them? Why? How will it end the pain? Now Itachi got worried. He had a few theories and none were good. The worst of them was that the Kyuubi is trying to take advantage of Naruto being in sadness. Naruto started clutching his head and was making it seem like he wanted whatever he was hearing to quiet down. Since it was in his head, nothing fixed it. Itachi shook him out of it and looked at him. His eyes were still black, but the sadness reappeared in them. Obviously he had been trying to bury it, but it seems that whatever was going on brought it out once again. You okay, Naruto-kun? Yes. Let's just keep going. Okay, well. I know Nisan, I know you're always there. They continued on the path for a while longer when they came upon a large house, fitting for the clan head. There was large front yard and backyard. They also had a small dojo and an OJT door training ground for sparring or shuriken and kunai training. Nisan! Called out a running Suzuki. Hey there. I'd like you to meet somebody. Who? Last time you introduced me to someone was Shisui-san. Yes. Itachi was sad in hearing the name but didn't show it. Somehow Naruto didn't show it either. It's his little cousin, they saw each other as brothers as they are all they have. His name is Naruto. Naruto's heart cracked some more when he heard Itachi saying the relationship of him and Shisui. Especially when he mentioned that they were the only family each other had. Now he was alone. Naruto-kun, this is my little sister Suzuki. Itachi stepped aside to let her see who the new kid was. She noticed that he had the jet black hair like all Uchiha, however he had fiery red highlights in it. On top of that, some of the blackest eyes she ever seen, which she couldn't help but stare into. He now regularly wore the black sleeveless hoodie with orange t-shirt, and black wristbands and black shorts, with black sandals. She had jet black hair that reached the base of her neck and bangs that framed the side of her face that reached eye level. She wore a navy blue Uchiha crested quarter-sleeve blouse, black pants and black sandals. Hello Suzuki-chan. Naruto said with a wave. She didn't respond, she just stood there. She didn't know why she didn't say anything but stood nonetheless. Something wrong? Naruto asked. Huh? And no, I'm sorry, I'm SAS, I mean hi. Itachi's eyebrows shot up and he was confused on what was going on. He looked between the two, then laughed a little to himself, but left it at that. So Suzuki, it's Naruto-kun's birthday today. Do you want to come with us to get dinner with Lord Third? There will be a few other friends of mine. Happy birthday, Naruto. Sure, I'll come. Thank you, Suzuki-chan. Naruto looked to Itachi and pretty much asked, what now? You two get to know each other a bit. I'm going to run inside real quick. Itachi left the two alone as he went into the house. Naruto and Suzuki just stood there for a bit in silence. Naruto looked into the sky and decided to say something, no matter how stupid it sounded. So nice weather, huh? Naruto said with a straight face. Suzuki laughed, and that brought a smile to Naruto's face. Yeah, sure. It's alright. You're a goof just like Shisui-san. I can see the similarities now. Naruto looked down. Yeah, will you start the academy next year? Yup. Have you been training? Little bit. Nissen trains me every now and then in Shuriken Jutsu and Taijutsu. Oh, okay. I never learned Shuriken Jutsu. We were going to start now that I mastered his Kenjutsu. What did you learn? She asked, curious of his skills. I learned Taijutsu, the interceptor fist, Kenjutsu, Genjutsu, working on ninjutsu. That's a lot. If you help me with Kenjutsu, I'll help your Shuriken Jutsu. You got a deal? Naruto said with a smile, although he was getting more and more sad as the day continued. Everything had to be a reminder of Shisui. You know? You've got some interesting hair, I don't know about that, and an interesting face, with those whisker-like marks. Don't know about it either. You don't know your parents? And no, Naruto said, looking away. Oh. I'm sorry. She didn't realize that he never knew his parents, and she did start feeling that he seemed to hide something, but she didn't know. It's okay. Hey you guys, you ready to go? Yes. What took you so long, Nisan? Suzuki said. Oh, nothing. Just had to put something away and prepare stuff for a mission tomorrow night. He was partly truthful. He was putting something away. He was stowing Shisui's eyes away since he still had them from the previous night. He had seen from the house that they had been talking, and was happy they would maybe form a bond. They were walking to Ichiraku's and Naruto was quietly dealing with the voice in his head. Itachi noticed that Naruto became increasingly more quiet and distant. This was worrying him, but he couldn't do anything since his sister was present. Itachi didn't want Naruto to succumb to the feelings since they'd be manipulated by the Kyuubi. The Sharingan on its own heightened his emotions, making his sadness and pain even worse. If the Kyuubi starts adding to that, then there is no way he could expect Naruto to remain sane. Hey! Happy birthday, Naruto! Said Yugao, Kakashi, Hiruzen. Naruto nodded and smiled in appreciation. He sat in the center with Suzuki beside him with everyone else around them. They all talked, and he updated them on his progress within his training. Everyone was impressed and surprised at how he seemed to bounce back like nothing from last night. So far only Itachi knew that it wasn't so. He hadn't been given a chance to inform the others as he was with Naruto the whole time. He planned to inform them after this. They then started giving gifts to Naruto. Yugao gave Naruto a shoulder sheath similar to Shisui's except it was black. Hiruzen gave 50 shuriken and 25 kunai. Kakashi gave him books on ninjutsu and fuinjutsu as well as a scroll on some ninjutsu he could learn over time. Kakashi knew he would dive head-on into training. It was what he did when his father committed suicide. He figured he might as well help keep him occupied with the books and knew he'd spend a lot of time working on complete mastery over jutsu. He was similar to Minato in that sense, always working a jutsu until it was fully mastered until the point it couldn't be pushed any further. Hiruzen knew Naruto was to start his shuriken training and Yugao knew about Shisui gifting his tanto. Her gift was mainly out of the sentiment of him. Itachi then presented his without presenting it. He told him he would teach him a genjutsu for the Sharingan that Shisui taught him and developed on his own. Saying that it's only right Naruto learns as well. It can be a family thing and he knew Shisui was going to teach him it eventually. Thank you all. I really appreciate this. You guys mean a lot to me. Now the sadness in his voice started coming out, but he was masking it well. They all wondered how he could gold it all in so well. Everyone but Suzuki noticed, she only just met him after all and doesn't know how he was. Naruto then got up. I'm going to go get training done, see you guys around. He then shined away. It was time he mastered it since he started practicing that as his first chakra requiring technique. Man, does he like always train? Suzuki asked. Everyone more or less nodded. Shisui trained him every day from morning till evening when he'd collapse. Itachi said, that reminds me. Where was he? You said they are like brothers. Everyone froze. They didn't know what to say since only they knew. It hadn't been publicly known yet. He's on a mission for a few weeks. Said Kakashi. Oh. Okay, I guess. She shrugged it off and everyone sighed in relief. 1 year later, a lot had happened in the year. Naruto's friendship with Suzuki grew, however he became really reserved as well. It was made out that Shisui committed suicide rather than killed. The tensions in the village and Uchiha grew exponentially. Kakashi now no longer was a full-time Anbu. He does Anbu missions every now and then but mainly serves as a Jonin leader. However, he hasn't passed a single genin team yet. Itachi had become the youngest Anbu captain ever since Kakashi, and was developing a fearsome reputation. Yugao continued her Anbu duties, being a Hokage guard. Suzuki and Naruto were going to begin the academy in a couple months, and she looked forward to it. Naruto seemed to be impassive about it, but he did look forward to being a ninja. Somehow Naruto's status as Jinchuriki got out and all the adults despised Naruto. This caused Naruto's thoughts to constantly agitate him in trying to get him to kill everyone around him. He kept it under control, but it did force him to want to seclude himself more. Hardly leaving his house, and if he did it was mainly to the forest of death. Naruto finally mastered the body flicker technique, and can jump repeatedly in a fight without losing control. When he uses his Sharingan, then he has no issues using it. He made a decision early on that he didn't want to always rely on the Sharingan. He mastered the fire jutsus that Shisui gave him and does them with a single sign. It really didn't take long, but he did start the jutsu that Kakashi gave but was still trying to master them. They were fire since he never got checked for other affinities yet. They were the Dragon Flame Bomb, Fire Breath, and Great Dragon Flame. They were all B rank and as such was taking him a little while to master them. Itachi had taught him Shisui's Mirror Heaven and Earth Change Genjutsu and Naruto mastered that. His arsenal was growing ever so slowly. His Shuriken Jutsu became extremely great as Suzuki helped him, and he helped her Kenjutsu. Over the year he spent a lot of time in the Forest of Death. As such he met Shikamaru Nara, heir to the Nara clan. The clan had ownership of the forest as it was their sacred land. Naruto learned pretty quick how smart Shikamaru was, even though he was quite lazy. He really liked him and they began forming a friendship. Itachi, after teaching Naruto the genjutsu, had started distancing himself from everybody. It confused everyone aside from Naruto since he was always training. Suzuki was sad about it, as such she spent time training in what Naruto would tell her to strengthen her genjutsu. Hokage office, Lord 3rd. Yes, Itachi-kun? The clan plans to make its move in a week. We need to make a plan. If we wait, the results will be devastating for everyone. I understand. What do you propose? I'm not sure, but as things play out we may have to strike. Are you sure about this? Yes, in fact, it will be me to do it. I'll wipe out the clan, pin it on me, never mention the plans they had for a coup, and take care of Suzuki and Naruto-kun. Itachi, I don't know if I could ever ask such a thing. You aren't, I'm volunteering. You must promise to take care of those two. Naruto-kun needs some light in his life. Right now he is fighting the darkness within him, and at this rate he will lose. How do you know? In order to quiet his inner demons, he's forced himself into seclusion. Only talking to people if they come to him. He needs love, Lord 3rd. Hiruzen nodded and understood. The curse of the Uchiha and their hatred grow from loss and pain. Every day that grows within Naruto, and with the Kyuubi's manipulation added on top, it's a recipe for disaster. Is there anything else you ask of me? Yes, one last thing. Naruto is the youngest Uchiha to awaken the Mangekyo now. As such, when he gains the ability to activate it, he'll begin to lose his vision. When that happens, implant these eyes into him. They're Shisui's, and when you do it, he will gain his Mangekyo ability as well as fix his eyesight for good. Hiruzen looked at Itachi shocked. However, that's not all. The Sharingan will no longer increase his pain and sadness once he has the eternal Mangekyo. It no longer will affect him negatively. You must wait till his vision begins depleting though. Okay, Itachi-kun. I will do as you've instructed and I'll watch over the two of them. Thank you. I need to prepare for tonight's mission then. You'll do it tonight? Yes, if we wait longer it gets harder. I'm going to have Suzuki head to Naruto-kun's for some training while I carry out the mission. Okay. Report to me when you've finished your mission. Hi. Hiruzen felt terrible that things came to this. If Danzo never interfered, then maybe things would never have come to this. Naruto wouldn't be sinking into darkness, and would still have Shisui with him. Danzo always ruined everything. Maybe it was time to stop overlooking him and to finally get rid of him. This situation was the final straw. Hey Suzuki. Itachi said, looking at his sister performing sword strikes. Ni-san. She gave him a tight hug. He reciprocated and hugged her as tight as possible. He looked at her smile and her eyes and memorized every bit, since this would be his last time with her. Go over to Naruto-kun's, okay? Why? We hadn't planned anything. I know, but he could really use a friend. Plus I know you'd love some more training and maybe a spar for genjutsu. She couldn't deny that. She was at a point where she felt like she was plateauing in her growth, so maybe some work with him would get her back on the rise. She did also realize how he was seen less and less these days. Okay. I'll go over there. He's currently in the forest of death. You can stay a few days if it is what it takes. Alright. See you later, Ni-san. She gave one last hug before getting a bag of clothes and taking her katana. She even grabbed a tub of sweet dumplings to eat with him. I'm sorry, Suzuki, it's for the best. Take care of each other. Suzuki ran through the village and was trying to quickly get to the training area that Naruto used all the time. She was excited because he was very helpful in improving her skills, and even though he got more distant, he was always warm around her. She didn't know what entirely was going on, but she could tell he was hurting. She had found out about Shisui's suicide and figured that could be the cause. Maybe if she spent more time with him, he could be happier. When Itachi said he needed a friend, she figured now would be her best chance to make an impact. Maybe I should ask him about that technique he uses that lets him teleport. She continued running for 30 more minutes. She came to the entrance and could smell smoke. She got really curious now and ran at top speed to the clearing he usually was always at. She noticed that the closer she got, the more charred the trees and ground were. This was extremely interesting, and she continued going. When she came to the clearing, she saw Naruto, Sharingan activated and panting heavily. All around him was ash and fire embers were everywhere. It was obvious that there was some serious fire jutsu being thrown around. She noticed an anger that he carried, and he released another fire jutsu. With one sign he made the great dragon flame, and she watched in awe as he made a dragon made of fire. He started making it move to his will as it danced around in the air before he lost control and the jutsu blew up. Now it made sense why the area was reduced to ash and char. He was angry, but it wasn't for messing up. He seemed to expect it almost as he continued practicing. She never seen him truly train before, and she was seeing how he got so strong. He just kept going nonstop until he could no longer. If he did this every day, then it made sense, but how would he be able to recover for the next day's training? Surely he'd be so exhausted that he couldn't train for a few days. It made no sense. So many questions loomed over Naruto. She noticed that Naruto stopped and took a few breaths, then based on how his cheeks moved, he was smiling. Suzuki-chan. Come over here. Naruto said, turning around with a smile. The anger she had seen him with seemed to be gone all of a sudden. She ran over to him, and they hugged with a greeting. She said she planned to remain with him to train for a few days, if he was okay with it, to which he agreed to. Hey, now I can show you a new genjutsu. Yes. When do we start? She was excited to learn a new skill, and she liked that Naruto always got straight to work when helping her. No matter what he was doing, he would always stop and help her out in whatever she needed. Right now. You will learn something Nisan taught me a few years ago. The thought of Shisui always hurt, but he was trying to learn to not be crippled by it. It's called the Uchiha style, Dance of the Sun Halo. With this genjutsu he started going through the motions by unsheathing his tanto and brought his left hand to the hilt to coat the blade in fire chakra, and with each slash a wave of fire will be unleashed. You make it look so easy. I know you'll get it in no time. You use a katana, the wave of fire will be larger than my own since I use a tanto. There are methods to make it stronger or bigger or whatever, but that is solely on the user's mastery. Hey Naruto? Yes? When did you awaken your Sharingan? I was for her eyes went wide as she realized that he's had it for as long as he could mold chakra. Is that how you learn so fast? No, Suzuki-chan. The Sharingan is an amazing tool, but I don't use it to learn jutsu. I just work it non-stop until I have true mastery. You see, it is true that with the Sharingan you can copy and memorize jutsu, but that doesn't equal mastery. She could only nod, as every jutsu or technique that Naruto uses, he activates with either only one hand sign or none at all. I do like using the Sharingan. I just want to make sure that I myself am strong so that if I'm too tired for the Sharingan or whatever, I won't be helpless. You're right, so what's the first step? They trained together for a few hours and the sun had started going down. They sat under a non-burnt tree together, and she shared the sweet dumplings with him. He looked to her. Something I've realized about using this technique is that we mold fire chakra in our hand. He formed flames within his hands. What do you think we could do with it aside from just putting it to a blade? I am not sure, I only just learned that was possible. I'm still annoyed. I can only do one slash and then the blade loses the fire, she said with her arms crossed. Haha, you'll get it soon. Took me a few days. What if every jutsu could be done like this? Like it's just gathering chakra, molding it, then giving it form from imagination. He stood up and proceeded to try a great fireball with no sign at all. I should be able to just will the fireball, right? He tried to do it, and it actually worked, just was a super weak version. I guess you're right, Naruto. More practice and you'll never have to waste time making hand signs for that jutsu again, she said with extreme adoration for the fact that here was someone her age doing something no one does. Itachi versus Uchiha. As night was coming, Itachi geared up. He put on his umbu gear, sheathed his sword and put his mask on. He looked into the mirror for a bit with his Sharingan activated and watched as he activated his Mangekyo. With these eyes I will walk the path of darkness. To keep them safe I will endure. Itachi shined out of the house and was on top of an electrical pole. He was crouched down and watched as the streets had gotten pretty clear since people were turning in for the night. He jumped down and brought his sword out. Running through the streets, he quickly killed the unsuspecting clan members that had been walking. Jumping through each building, he killed everyone. For a little while it was easy since no one knew of what was going on. After the first block he knew there was only 5 more to go. The police force started becoming aware, and now he had to fight. He knew that there was no Uchiha alive that could defeat him currently, but he wouldn't get arrogant. A group of 5 charged at him. He engaged in a sword fight and started taking them out one by one with acrobatic movements. He continued going through the buildings, killing more. He came to a house that he was dreading. It was Izumi's. He started going towards the door when her voice called him from behind. Itachi-kun, what's happening right now? She was scared. He gripped his sword tightly, then turned around. She saw the blood on him and his blade. She couldn't believe it. No, you couldn't have, Tsukuyumi, Itachi said when he made eye contact with her. In the illusion of his that is granted by the Mangekyo, he had her live out her entire life. She would go on to be married to him, and they'd be happy with a family until she reached old age and passed away. When the illusion was released, her death within that world transferred to the real world. If the mind dies, the person goes. He held her in his arms. Thank you for loving me, he said with a tear falling. He closed her eyes and laid her down gently. He had to keep going. The interesting thing was that despite all the time that went on within the illusion, it seemed that no time passed at all in the real world. He continued on the massacre. In the matter of 2 hours everyone but 2 were dead. The ones that would be the hardest for him to kill. His parents. He came to the house and began to quietly walk through. He was wondering where in the house they may be. Suddenly he was brought out of his thoughts. We're in here, Itachi, we aren't going to fight, Fugaku said. He looked to the great room. He opened the door, and he saw Fugaku and Mikoto resting on their knees facing away from him. I don't wish to enter a fight to the death, my son. Unlike you, our pain will end in an instant, Fugaku said. Itachi approached them and prepared to deliver the last 2 strikes of the night. He was shaking and he began to cry. He never hesitated like this before, and wasn't able to bring himself to finish the job. You truly are a kind boy, Itachi. Although we may not have had the same vision, I am proud of you, my son. You must see your path through. I just ask that you take care of Suzuki. I will, father, Itachi cried and screamed as he swung his sword, killing both his parents instantly. He dropped to his knees and cried his eyes out. He just slaughtered his clan, killed his lover and parents, all for the village and the safety of Suzuki and Naruto. He got back up and shined to Horizen's office. It is done, Itachi-kun. How long do I have? You'll have 3 days to get as far as you can. What will you do? I've learned of an organization that will take me in. I'll be constantly sending you intel through my journeys. I hate that you had to do this, but I am thankful to you for protecting the village. Itachi just nodded. Please watch over Naruto and Suzuki. I will, Itachi-kun. Thank you, Lord Third. No need to thank me. It's the least I can do for you. If anything happens to them, I will come back and I'll kill everyone involved. With that, he dispersed in a flock of crows and was gone. Itachi in 3 days would be marked as a traitor for killing his clan. Naruto walked through his house and came across a room that pained him every time he passed it. He hadn't entered the room since the night he learned of Shisui's death. He just couldn't bring himself to enter it. His hand shook as he reached for the no, but suddenly dropped it as he couldn't bring himself to go in. A few tears began to drop and his eyes were knitted tightly shut. Suddenly someone grabbed his hand gently and placed the other hand just above his elbow as a small hug. He thought he was the only one awake. It was 2 a.m. after all. He never got much sleep these days and as such would normally go train in either the field out back, or the dojo, or in the forest of death. But since Suzuki had been sleeping in the guest room, he didn't want to wake her nor just leave her alone in the house. It was his room, wasn't it? She said somberly. Yes. She then rested her head on his shoulder. Without speaking a word, he understood that she was assuring him that she would support him no matter his choice. He opened the door, and he slowly walked in. She kept his pace and never left his side. The room was made up with not a single thing out of place. Had it not been for the dust that gathered up over the year and a half, it would have been perfectly clean, as it was obvious that it was always well kept. Naruto walked throughout the room and noticed pictures of him and Shisui together. On the same photo he placed his index and middle fingers over Shisui in the photo. Hey Naruto? There looks to be notes of some kind on his desk. Naruto gasped in shock. He was working on a new genjutsu. He never got to finish it. What is it? From the looks, it seems that he was trying to create a genjutsu that was motivated from something he calls Kodo Amatsukami. Apparently that genjutsu allows him control of someone through making someone completely believe his will. Well, this was apparently going to be able to create a hell-like world that would crush the victim's mind and they'd believe it though his will, which would kill the victim. At least that was the aim. He never was able to perfect it, as said in his notes, and seemed to be trying to find a way to complete it, but I guess now you should try to finish it. I'm sure he'd be proud if you could find the answer that he couldn't. Besides, you're probably the only one who would be able to. Your ability to learn techniques is something I've never seen. Maybe you're right. I know I am, she said, smiling, and he just wrapped an arm around her, rubbing her right arm while pulling her tightly. Thank you, Suzuki-chan. The next 2 days they spent training rigorously. She managed to master the Uchiha style, Dance of the Sun Halo. Naruto finally fully mastered the Shunshin, and can have no difficulty making repeated jumps in close succession within close range for battle. The next step was the version of the teleportation jutsu where Shisui could create his afterimage clones. They were special and required immense speed. Where Shisui could make 16, Naruto could only make 2. He wasn't fast enough nor mastered the version of the technique fully just yet. It also took him a few hand signs to perform this level of the teleportation jutsu when Shisui didn't. Naruto's speed was greatly increasing, and this was including his normal speed, not just when using the Shunshin. It was nowhere near the level of his Shunshin and didn't succeed that of a Jonin, but he was definitely as fast, if not faster, than most Chunin. Just a benefit when you are trained and raised by the second fastest shinobi in the world and son of the fastest in the world. Suzuki was amazed by his speed and use of the Shunshin and finally asked to learn it. He of course did, but it seemed that she'd never reach his level of mastery, as she could only use it for the purpose that every shinobi did, and that was mere transportation. Maybe in a few years she could use it similar to Naruto, but currently she couldn't. However, she was just glad to be able to use it, since all she wanted to get to point A to be quicker. Suzuki had said bye to Naruto and had left to go back home. They had been happy, and she made him feel better than he had been before. He was thankful that about her surprise visit and glad that she was his friend. Soon though she would need him more than ever, as she was in for a shock to her world. Naruto. Hello, Uncle Kakashi. What can I do for you? Naruto said, standing from a seated position. What have you been doing? Oh, nothing. Suzuki-chan was here, you just missed. She really helped me out these past few days that she stayed. You guys were together for a few days alone? Kakashi said with a perverted smile and a chuckle. Yeah? Why? Oh, nothing, Naruto. Gonna be a few years before you understand, Kakashi thought with a laugh. Okay, anyways, I mastered the Shunshin and started to work on Shisui's last step of it being his most advanced teleportation jutsu. My, how far along are you? I can form 2 clones and I still have to make a few hand signs. Naruto said, annoyed. You'll get there, Naruto. I'm proud of your development, but don't make the same mistakes as me when I was your age. I dove all in on my training after my father's suicide and closed myself off from everyone. Then during and after the war, I really closed everybody out. Remember, you are only going to be turning 7. Naruto tried to enjoy your childhood as well, Kakashi said, kneeling before Naruto so they could be eye level. I understand, uncle, but if I'm not training, my feelings start to linger, and it's too painful. It scares me, Naruto said, looking down. Why does it scare you, Naruto? I hear a voice all the time and get feelings to do horrible things. Training seems to quiet it all, and I can be relaxed, Naruto said with a few tears forming in his eyes. Naruto, Kakashi said in a saddened tone. Is it the Kyuubi? The Sharingan? I do remember seeing the Mangekyo awaken. Shisui had Minato-sensei. I also had him. Naruto, doesn't I understand now why Lord Third told me to watch over him now? Thought Kakashi. What do I do? The academy begins soon and I'll be forced to stay away from training. I'm scared. Please, I don't know what to do. Naruto now was crying. He feared this dark feeling he had all the time and could only hide from it while he trained. If that was not an option, what would he do? I'll be there for you, Naruto. I'll help you. Whenever you need to talk, you can talk to me. How can you understand? Ever since my Sharingan awakened, I've felt more and more pain and sadness. It's like it multiplies my emotions. Kakashi lifted his headband and Naruto was completely surprised. He always thought that maybe he just didn't have an eye or something given the scar. Never did he expect a Sharingan. I do understand, Naruto. That is why I can help you. Naruto embraced Kakashi in a hug and cried in his arms for a few minutes. For the first time since Shisui's death, he felt like he truly had someone who understood. Itachi did as well, but it wasn't the same after Shisui died. After he'd learned Shisui's genjutsu counter from him, they hadn't really been together much, and Naruto mainly was always with Suzuki. They still were close, but Naruto always bottled up how he felt, so he thought Itachi never knew. Kakashi hadn't spent a lot of time with Naruto, not since he was still a baby. He always visited but didn't get to see him as much as he'd like. Mainly because of his Anbu duties. Then when he was no longer Anbu and became a Jonin leader, he was forced to take on teams which he quickly dropped and just got sent on high-level missions. Here, let's have a spar, Naruto. I'll even have my Sharingan out. I want to see how you've developed, Kakashi said, standing up. Naruto smiled and they began their fight. Hiruzen had been watching from his crystal ball and smiled when he saw how much Kakashi was able to alleviate some of Naruto's turmoil. However, he knew all too well that it would take a lot more, and even more time to truly rid the darkness. He learned a lot about the Uchiha from his senseis, Hashirama Senju the Shodai Hokage and Tobirama Senju the Night-Aim Hokage. Plus his friend and teammate Kagami Uchiha. He knew that the capacity of love for an Uchiha was unmatched, but so was their capacity to hatred. You can't have one without the other, and it would always be there. For an Uchiha, they had to have someone or something to love that was far greater than their hatred. However, if they lost that which they loved, it is what led to many Uchiha losing it, the most notorious being Madara Uchiha. After losing his brother, who he loved dearly, Madara went mad and was consumed in hatred. It's possible to overcome, but it took a strong will and for there to be love in the life of the Uchiha that could be unbreakable. Right now Naruto needed as much as possible since he also had the Kyuubi enhancing his negative emotions and was now the youngest to ever awaken the Mangekyo, even if he couldn't activate it on command yet. He figured that when Naruto learned of the massacre, and the rumors of the fact that Itachi killed Shisui, then he'd be able to activate it once more. Hiruzen didn't think anyone could guide him since the awakening of the Mangekyo was entirely different than just the base Sharingan. Without the guidance of someone with the Mangekyo, it would be hard since he had to overcome it all on his own. With the Uchiha clan wiped out and the only other Mangekyo user being the one to do it, and be forced to become a missing nin, Hiruzen was worried. How would Naruto turn out? If only there was some way, but he knew Itachi couldn't. He had a new duty and had to walk that path. Hiruzen really wished he knew what to do in this situation but didn't. Soon Suzuki would learn of her clan's fate and then she'd end up going to Naruto. At least they had a strong bond, so that eased Hiruzen. It still saddened him how everything was, but he would do his best to make things better. I wonder if I should tell Naruto of my own Mangekyo? No, I'll wait until he activates it again, thought Kakashi. There was no point in trying to teach Naruto of it, if he couldn't even use it nor knew of its existence. It would probably be for the best that he doesn't know of it for as long as possible. Later that night, Naruto had said his byes to Kakashi and had gone back home. It was already dark and he was tired. He learned really fast that Kakashi was an extremely formidable opponent. He wasn't arrogant to think he could win, but he at least thought that maybe he could do well from the fact that Kakashi wasn't as fast as Shisui, so maybe he'd be able to keep up. Yeah, no, that was not the case. He could only perceive his movements with his Sharingan, but even then, he still wasn't fast enough to do anything about it. The Sharingan didn't grant speed, the perception, yes, you could see a move before it happens, but if you yourself wasn't fast enough, then it wouldn't matter. You'd just watch yourself get beat up in slow motion. That annoyed Naruto, but he knew that being in fights like that would be extremely beneficial to him. Always sparring against the best meant that if anyone was around his level, he'd in theory easily go through them since the opponent wouldn't be at that level of opponent he'd trained against. Kakashi was probably the strongest jonin of the village, so that meant an absolute ton of bruises all over his body. He didn't feel a beating like that since he angered Shisui and learned firsthand why he was named Shisui the Teleporter. Naruto was brought from his thoughts when he noticed Suzuki in his porch. That was odd since she had left earlier. Had she forgotten something? Then he noticed how pained she seemed to be in, and he immediately ran to her. "Hey Suzuki-chan, what's wrong?" He put his hand on her shoulder, and when she looked up at him, his heart began to sink as he could saw her crying. He always wanted her happy, and seeing her this way hurt. She didn't speak anything as it was hard for her to talk. Immediately Naruto embraced her in a tight hug and was gently rubbing her back and stroking her hair gently. She returned the hug and they stood there for 10 minutes while she cried into his shoulder, while he just tried to comfort her. When she started to settle down, he took her inside and sat her on the couch while he got some peach tea from the kitchen for them. He sat beside her and didn't say anything, rather just held her hand and waited until she was ready. He was worried and feared that maybe something happened to her parents, or worse, her brother. He really liked and looked up to Itachi, and if something happened it would really hurt. But he didn't want to think like that then again. What else would cause her to be this way? After a while, she gripped his hand tighter and looked up at him. She just looked into his dark black eyes that felt like she was looking into a void and finally mustered up her voice. The clan, they're all dead. Naruto was about to say something when she continued. Apparently I, Itachi, slaughtered them, all my parents' cousins, the whole clan, everyone. She began crying again. Naruto didn't speak, only hugged her and let her cry in his chest. It took everything within him to hold his emotions in. He wanted to know he's strong for her. He wouldn't let her see him sad when she needed him. He would stay strong for her and never cry in front of her again so that he could always make her feel better. Right then he decided that his pain and sadness, he'll try to hide and bury around her so that way, she could always see him as a light and ray of happiness for her. Naru, I'm so sorry. They think that my brother may have. She paused. How do I tell him he deserves to know, she thought. I am so sorry. Anumbu said that they think he faked Shisui-san's suicide and that it was him that killed him for power. She felt as Naruto froze and got stiff. He didn't say anything though, and it was scaring her. Was he mad and began hating her for what her brother did? She really didn't want to lose him but knew that Naruto was in so much pain to begin with, even if he didn't show it. Now learning her brother may have been the reason, how would he see her now? She knew she lost her family and clan thanks to him. She didn't want to lose Naruto too due to him. And Naruto? Did you hate me? Naruto hugged her tighter, as he finally snapped out of it. No, I'll never hate you, Suzuki-chan, he said softly to her. She cried more as she was so saddened but also happy to know he wouldn't leave her. She needed him to be by her side and couldn't imagine what would happen if he wasn't there. They were the last Uchiha and her only friend left. Suzuki began to fall asleep in Naruto's arms, so he picked her up bridal style and carried her to the guest room. He laid her down gently and pulled the covers over her. He cleaned her cheeks from the dry tears and brushed her hair out her face. He smiled sadly looking at her as she laid sleeping peacefully. He began to turn around and walk away when he felt her grab his wrist. Please don't go. Will you stay with me? Sure. Naruto sat in the chair by the bed while she held his left hand with both of hers tightly and close to her heart. After a while she finally completely fell asleep and he finally let the tears he'd held the whole time out and cried silently beside her. His eyes tight, he felt so betrayed. He looked up to Itachi, and he had taught him so much. Was it all a lie? How could he kill Shisui? How could he kill the clan? Naruto asked that so many times he didn't understand. Just how? Why would he? All this was driving him mad. His eyes shot open and his Mangekyo was activated once again. This time he felt the change. His eyes burned and he brought his fingers to his eye. He looked in the mirror and say his Sharingan was different and saw the 6 black triangles with the bases connected to form a hexagon in the center, the black ring that was centered through the triangles and the black circle in the center of the hexagon, and the glowing blood red of the background to them. He felt different with these eyes. He felt the power they held and his vision felt so much clearer, so much stronger. He felt as his visual prowess was 10 times stronger with these eyes and could feel there were more hidden powers within. With these eyes I'll find the answers. I'll create a world of peace, Naruto thought looking into his reflection. He looked to the sleeping Suzuki-chan. With these eyes I will always protect you. No one will take you away from me and nobody will hurt you. I promise. Hiruzen had watched everything with his crystal ball. He was glad to see that they supported each other. Happy to see that she didn't become lost to hatred thanks to Naruto being by her side. However, he couldn't help but worry about Naruto when he saw that now Naruto fully activated the Mangekyo. The promise he made was both good and bad. He was glad that maybe Suzuki was the key to keeping him out of the darkness. However, if something ever happened, should she be in danger, what would he do? How will he react? He thought it was the same with Itachi. He practically promised to slaughter anyone if something happened to Naruto and Suzuki. If Naruto was feeling the same way, then it was a terrifying thought. At least he knew with Itachi that he was focused and would direct it. But Naruto housed the Kyuubi, and if something happened, Naruto would destroy everything around him, no matter who it was. What do I do? Thought Hiruzen. He would need to go to Kakashi and see what he thought. Right then he decided for sure that when Naruto become a shinobi, His sensei would be Kakashi. With the Sharingan he could potentially suppress the QB, and with his knowledge in some seals he could suppress it that way as well. Before he was only somewhat considering it since Naruto already had training in the Sharingan, and should be fine. However, as things were now it was no longer an option. Suzuki would be on the team naturally as well since she needed someone to train her in the Sharingan when she awakened it, and she could maybe be the key in taming Naruto whenever he started to slip into anger. Now he'd have to wait until their graduation to choose a third member. 2 months later, the first day of the academy arrived. A lot happened in these 2 months. Suzuki now lived in Naruto's home since she could no longer bring herself to be in her own house. She was thankful that Naruto invited her to stay with him when he'd walked her home the morning after she gave him the news. He had seen her face and that was all he needed in order to know she no longer wanted to be there. She got the room right beside Naruto's and had trained with him every day leading up to the academy. He really helped her in feeling better as now she no longer felt completely pained. It was still there but she could feel happy again. It took a month but she was getting better. For a long time she couldn't believe how Naruto seemed to fine. Never did he show any sadness or pain around her. The thoughts of him being strangely fine ended a couple weeks ago when she awoke in the middle of the night one night. She had gone to the kitchen and got some water. She was in a blue t-shirt and black shorts so she started to feel a little chilly. It was cold this night, and she was about to go back into her warm covers when she stopped in the hall. There were sounds coming from the dojo. It was on the other side of the house so the sounds were faint. When she came to the door it wasn't fully slid shut, and as such she could see into it. She saw Naruto punching the hell out of a punching bag and then she noticed he was crying and could see how much sadness he truly had and was hiding from her. As his crying seemed to escalate, so did his punches, until he seemed to let put a small quiet scream which he seemed to be trying hard to contain, and he had punched into the bag making his fist go through all that was to his wrist. She wanted to over there and comfort him but decided against it. It was obvious he was trying to hide this from her. She figured that when he was ready, he'll express it, and would let him keep it to himself for now. Kakashi would come by regularly and always helped in training or talking to Naruto. She didn't ever try to listen in as it seemed to be something personal between the two, but she did hear one word time, Mangekyo. What was it? She still hadn't awakened her own Sharingan, but was learning a lot about how it would be. Naruto helped in training her body to be able to keep up with the visual prowess of the Sharingan, and that was the majority of her training for the 2 months. Neither one learned new jutsu, just perfecting what they already had, and training each other in genjutsu and shuriken jutsu respectively as they had promised each other. They were both becoming masters of both arts. Naruto already mastered genjutsu and figured that in another year, so would Suzuki. Naruto's shuriken jutsu would probably be mastered in another month based on the fact that he trains day and night. Naruto woke up and began to cook some breakfast. He was in sweats and his sleeveless hoodie. It was quite early but he couldn't sleep anyways. The surrounding area of his eyes was slightly darkened over the lack of sleep over time, but it wasn't too prominent, and could be missed if you didn't pay attention. He had just finished making the eggs, bacon, and toast, poured some orange juice and set the table when Suzuki had came into the kitchen. He smiled and wished her a good morning. Afterwards he left to go shower. That puzzled her. She noticed now that it was always like that. He would make breakfast but she never saw him eat. No dish was in the sink and he never actually ate with her. Rather he trained. It was the same even this morning. However, he showered and wore his usual outfit to then head to the academy. He waited for her, and they left together. Along the walk, she decided to finally ask, "Hey Naru?" Naruto rose an eyebrow. "Yes, Suzuki-chan? Why do you make breakfast? Only to not eat. Because it makes you happy. And I'm just not all that hungry, you know. You hardly eat." "Like I said, Suzuki-chan, not all that hungry. Don't worry about it. Today we start the academy, so focus on that." Naruto, she knew that him not eating as much was probably due to his inner turmoil, but she couldn't bring herself to confront him about it. She didn't know how he'd react and as such let it go. Soon though, she'll get him to open up. After some time, they came to the academy gate. It was a large building. There was a large library just beside it, the Konoha library in fact. And there was a large training ground in front. There were log posts with targets, obviously for shuriken and kunai training, and even a circular ring made in the ground, most likely for spars. The two stood there as they watched a large group of kids all conversing and boasting of their clans and who'll be the strongest of the class. Naruto didn't want to get into the mix of them and stood by a tree with a swing. Suzuki naturally followed him. "Suzuki-chan, you should make some friends." "Why aren't you?" "Suzuki-chan, I'll tell you later, okay?" She didn't completely get it but trusted that he'd follow through on what he said. He wasn't one to just say something just for saying its sake. He'd mean whatever he say truthfully, and as such she left him alone there to meet some people before the teacher would come for them. Naruto smiled slightly as he watched her go. He truly wanted her to make some friends. He knew though that he wouldn't be able, however he wouldn't let it get in her way. Suzuki was heading towards the crowd and wondered who to go towards. She was pretty nervous but wouldn't let it show. Suddenly a couple people came towards her. There was a blonde girl, a pink-haired shy girl that came towards her. "Hello there, I'm Ino Yamanaka. This here is my friend Sakura Haruno. She's pretty shy but nice when you get to know her. Hi." said Sakura shyly. Hello, I'm Suzuki. The Uchiha? Ino said slightly loud. Thankfully no one heard. Yes. Ino realized that she probably shouldn't talk about that but rather just tried to talk of other things. Mainly how she had met Sakura and flowers. Suzuki wasn't sure she enjoyed talking about flowers but could tell that the blonde was trying to be friendly. She was taken out of her thoughts when Ino had asked her something. Sorry I didn't get that. It's okay. I asked who that boy is by the tree. He seems to be watching you. She glanced over and smiled. That's Naruto. For as long as I've known him, he's always been there for me. He's just making sure I'm okay. Don't worry. Is he your boyfriend? What? Haha, I'm joking. He's got some interesting hair. You're jet black, but those red highlights are interesting. He dye it? Nope. That's his natural hair. Pretty odd as every Uchiha only had black, so I'm not sure why his is different. She said, chuckling. Oh, okay. Well, why is he off on his own? I'm not sure. He said he'd tell me later, so they all talked for a while longer and awaited the sensei's arrival. Naruto was off alone still and smiled that Suzuki made a couple friends. He happened to look over and saw someone laying in the grass. So the Nara heir is in the class as well. Yo, Naruto. Antisocial now? Said Shikamaru in the grass. You could say that. What are you doing? Watching the clouds, man. Watching the clouds. Naruto chuckled and walked towards the entrance with Shikamaru as they could tell it was going to be time. Surprisingly, Hiruzen came out with some chunin, but everyone was happy to see their Hokage. He was giving a speech, something about will of fire, but Naruto and Shikamaru took the time to take a nap. They woke up when it was done. They had some skill to time it so perfectly it was insane. Suzuki went over to Naruto. Didn't you think that was a nice speech? Yeah, Gigi has such a way with words. Naruto said, however she poked in between his ribs showing that she knew he hadn't paid attention. Ah, come on Suzuki-chan, it's okay, you need to rest, Naru. Just try not to make this a reoccurring theme and sleep at home, okay? Sure. He walked beside her and little did she know how much he was trying to maintain his calm. However, with her at his side it was far easier. He never understood why she could make it all quiet down and nothing else mattered. However, he would protect her forever since she could. One thing was for sure, the academy was boring. Naruto hated every second of it. For the entire first year it was only lecture, and he wouldn't learn a single new thing. Shisui taught him all the theory of jutsu and chakra and genjutsu. This year would be a total waste. Want it to end, kill them all. Not again, Naruto accidentally said out loud. Sadly, the room had been silent as they were all reading and everyone turned to him. The sensei, Iruka Yumino, glared an all-too-familiar glare to Naruto. So he's like the others. Guess the years got even longer. That talk is more important than ever now. She must not be involved. Together we can end this. No more of those glares and no more being subjugated to this pain. Naruto winced as he tried hard to repress the urges. He squeezing the pencil in his hand so tight that it snapped in half. You will remain silent, Naruto. Now read before you are punished. Iruka said as he looked at him in disgust. Great, worse than I thought. Man, should I aim to show out to graduate early then? But if I do, then I don't know. Just kill him. You know you hate him for looking at you that way. What will you do when he gives her that same look? That seemed to get a reaction out of his container as he tensed. His eyes became a crimson red, but rather than the Sharingan a black slit was visible. Naruto's whisker marks began darkening and becoming more apparent, but just as quickly as it all appeared, it receded and was gone. It was only visible for a few seconds and as such no one noticed except for one pineapple-shaped haired boy, Shikamaru Nara. Troublesome, what are you hiding, Naruto? Whatever the case, I know it isn't the real you, so when will you let anyone in? We could help you, no troublesome. Shikamaru thought as he looked at Naruto. He glanced at Suzuki and saw she hadn't noticed the subtle change. I wonder. Naruto slowly opened his eyes that were now normal and all he did was nod towards his teacher. If Iruka could be called that at this point. That night, Naruto and Suzuki returned home. He prepared dinner, and this time he would eat with her. He needed to talk to her, and she was expecting some answers. So, do I need to ask questions or will you just speak? Suzuki said. Naruto sighed. Suzuki-chan, first off, while we are at the academy or public, it will be best if you don't associate with me. What? Are you insane? What are you ashamed of me? Suzuki began to feel hurt as she felt she was the problem. Maybe he wasn't so fine with her as he made it out to be. That's not it. You're very dear to me. As such, I will not let you be hurt for being near me in public. What do you mean then, Naruto? Once more he sighed. I'm not sure why, but the villagers have been sending me hateful glares and disgust. Our teacher gave me the same look today. I will not allow their views of me for whatever reason they have be placed on you. You still can make friends and have fun. Kids stay away from me as their parents tell them to. The more you are near me, they'll start to avoid you too. Naruto, I won't turn my back on you. You're the one who's always been there for me. And I still will, albeit from a distance in my own way. Listen, so long as you're happy, I am happy. When we return to the house, I'll be with you. This way you're never alone and have many friends and many to rely on. Who will be your friend? Who will you rely on? Sasuke wasn't pleased at hearing any of this. Sasuke-chan, you're the only one in the world that I need, as such no one else matters. Not Gigi, not Uncle Kakashi, not anybody. You are the calm to my storm. So just be happy for both of us. She couldn't believe what he said. Did he really value her more than Kakashi and Lord Third? What did that mean? Why was he so sure that he couldn't have anybody? Could he truly be happy so long as she was? Or was it just him trying to make her feel better about the fact that as she would have friends, he'd be alone? While she was having fun or gathered with others, he'd stay in seclusion. The path that seemed to lay ahead of Naruto sounded lonely to Sasuke. She didn't want to have him feel such a way. She didn't understand what she felt towards him but knew that she'd rather anyone but him feel such a way. Why is it that every time things could go well for her, he always had to suffer in silence while always showing her a brave face? That thought made her wonder, just how sad did he feel when he said that? If he truly valued her as he said, then no doubt it must really hurt his heart to have her stay away from him outside the house. A tear slipped out of her eye while she clenched his hand tightly. What does he mean by him being a storm that I can calm? Naruto just smiled at her, trying to help her feel better about it all, and then stood up. I'm going to go train. There's something I want to work on. Get some rest, okay? Okay, thank you for everything. You don't ever need to thank me, Sasuke-chan. You may not realize it, but you are far more helpful than I am. He then disappeared from sight as she was left to process the entire talk and didn't know what to feel. She was sad. Her friend always seemed to get the short end of the stick. Happy that despite everything, he valued her before himself. It made no sense just why. It would be a long time before either one truly understood what they felt, or why, but one thing for certain was that they had each other's back. The academy was interesting to Sasuke, but she could tell that Naruto could care less. Then again, he was rather knowledgeable, so it only made sense. Hokage office. Naruto-kun? What are you doing here at this time? I wanted to ask you, would it be beneficial to strive to graduate early? I won't get to learn much from the courses and sensei doesn't like me. I'm just trying to figure out what would be best. Well, we are not currently at war, so generally we don't allow early graduations, but why are you wanting to leave truthfully? Gigi, I don't know how to explain it, but I just don't trust myself. Try to stick it through. I'm sure Sasuke-san wouldn't want this, and I think if you give it some time, you'll find a circle for yourself. Okay, I will try, but, well, you've got the Nara as a friend, don't you? That's a start, Naruto-kun. I guess you're right. Naruto gave Hiruzen a small and weak smile, but it was a genuine smile nonetheless. When will Uncle Kakashi be back? Tomorrow night. I'll let him know. Naruto nodded and vanished as if he was never there. His biggest question but never asked was why they saw him as they did. He didn't do anything, not that he knew of at least. Hiruzen was greatly disappointed in Irika. The Chunin had professed how much he wished to be an instructor of the academy so that he could help mold the future. Where had that drive gone? He knew Irika lost his parents during the Kyuubi attack, but to blame the child was disappointing. How can I make things better? At this rate, Naruto-kun will never care for his life and will rush to death. He has nothing to drive on in his life, said Hiruzen to nobody. Hopefully through time, Naruto's life could change and he could return to happiness. Shikamaru's house. Father, I have a question, but I feel it's quite troublesome. What is it? Shikaka asked, rather interested. Shikamaru never really ever showed interest in anything much. Naruto. Shikaka glanced over to his son as he started piecing together where it was heading. He knew his son would notice things that no one else would. When I'm around him, he was always so kind and even funny. A rather troublesome kid. Yet today I saw him with a look I've never seen before. It was like hatred embodied. The looks he always gets and the treatment he receives, it's like he's the plague. What's up with that? Well, what's your own personal opinion of him? I think he's a friend. Then do what you wish, Shikamaru. The thoughts of others are arrogant. In time they should go away. Just do what you feel is right. Shikaka was one of the only people to know the full truth of Naruto. He was one of Minato's trusted advisors and was a genius like no other. He never saw Naruto the way others do, but he wouldn't pity the boy, knowing that pity never got anywhere, and generally no one liked being pitied. Okay. Then I'll just be his friend. Also, he seems to push himself farther and farther into seclusion, so he's really having issues with the Kyuubi. The look of hatred embodied plus this. He's most likely trying to ensure no one is hurt by him accidentally. Do what you think is right. If he wishes to be alone, oblige. I'm sure he'll explain if you ask. Shikamaru nodded and left his father, thinking on what he was told. He was only able to conclude that there were definitely many secrets about his friend, secrets that he would probably never be told, at least not for a long time. What could they be? How much would it change everything about Naruto if learned? One thing was for sure. Naruto was a mystery. Weeks would go by and every day, more and more people started to come around to Sasuke. She was loved by practically everybody. On the other side of the coin, Naruto was on his own. He had told Shikamaru the same thing he told Sasuke, and he understood why Naruto would request this. He told Naruto that he viewed him as a friend no matter what, and should he ever need it, he's there no matter how troublesome it might be. That had made Naruto laugh a bit, and they shook hands. Naruto did make a request that he'd help make sure Sasuke be okay. He had training he wanted to do, and with her having more and more friends now, she may want to go hang out with them. He wouldn't be able to watch over her all the time. Naruto did something that puzzled Shikamaru. He lifted up his hand and waited patiently. Suddenly a crow flew onto it and stayed there perched on his hand. If something ever happens or you need me, leave a message on the crow. It will come to me and I'll come help you. So you can control crows? More like work with them. But in a sense I guess you could say that. Troublesome. Alright Naruto. I'll help you in this. Thank you. Naruto then disappeared from sight and all Shikamaru saw was a blur. That greatly shocked him and made him wonder even more about Naruto. Just what more are you hiding, Naruto? If only he knew the extent of his secrets and ability. A couple months would go by and Naruto's birthday came. He had a bad feeling about the day but decided to just go about it as normal as possible. Happy birthday, Naru! Suzuki said, jumping onto Naruto the moment he had exited his room. Haha, thank you, Suzuki-chan. I'm surprised you woke up before me. It is really early, you know. Yes, she said with a fake pout. You'll have to make it up to me for doing this. Isn't it my birthday though? Naruto said, every amused. Yes, but that doesn't give an excuse for my having to get out of bed this early. What did you have in mind? Well, Naruto knew he wouldn't outwit her in this situation and just gave in. She smiled and giggled, hugging him from being on his back. She rested her head down on his shoulder and spoke, you'll allow me to help you celebrate it today. Oh? Is that all? You're particularly lenient today. Don't tempt me, Naru. Okay. What did you want to do? Naruto said, laughing. He had carried her to the couch and they sat down. He went into the kitchen and grabbed some juice for her. Well, maybe we could go eat somewhere. Wherever you'd like. I know you're friends with Shikamaru, so I'm sure he'd come. Is there anyone else you'd like? I don't really care. You could bring some of your friends if you like. It's not my birthday, it's yours. Not my place to bring friends. She said, fine. I'll send a message to Gigi. He'll handle the plan. Just gonna push the preparations onto the poor old Hokage? She laughed. Yep. She stopped laughing and looked at him before laughing more. Only Naruto could so casually increase the Hokage's load without a sense of worry. Naruto began making breakfast and was teaching her on how to cook something since she hadn't really learned to cook. Since she was up, might as well learn something, at least that was her thought process. It made her smile since Naruto seemed happier than he had been for a while. She really missed this side of him and couldn't help but get teary-eyed due to this. The last time he seemed as happy was before the massacre and before the death of Shisui. Ever since then he hadn't been the same. She was still really sad about the massacre, but having her friends and having Naruto really helped her alleviate the pain. That is also what worried her about Naruto. He always just bottled his emotions and buried it, never dealt with it. She wondered how much he could take and when his breaking point would be reached. It scared her thinking about it. With what she knew of his abilities, he'd be a force not to be trifled with. Not even she knew the full extent of his abilities since she no longer trained as hard as him, and he didn't always train in her presence. She was still training and keeping her skills sharp, but due to the academy and her friends, she only trained a few days of the week and for a few hours. Naruto still trained daily since he hardly slept still, and she just had to accept that. He still always helped her in her techniques when asked. She began wondering when she'd awaken her own Sharingan. That was something the clan held in high regard, and the clan didn't consider an Uchiha until they awakened their beloved Kikei Genkai. The fireball jutsu was just the first step. The true defining decision was based on the Sharingan. It disappointed her to still not awaken it. Don't worry about it, Suzuki-chan. It'll come soon. Just be patient. How did you? We've known each other a while now. I can tell that it bothers you not to have it yet. But remember, I'm an exception with the Sharingan. Nobody awakens it when I did. Normally they're genin when they awaken it, so just be patient. I know you'll awaken it one day soon. She smiled to hear him believing in her and not look down on her for her lack of the Sharingan. Normally one would be disappointed in her, but Naruto had a point. To awaken the Sharingan, one usually was already genin and had to have developed a decent-sized reserve of chakra. They were heading to the academy when Naruto was noticing the even more intense glares. They looked ready to kill him right then and there. Just what the hell was their problem? You demon, better not be trying to corrupt Sasuke Uchiha. What? Demon? I am no such thing. Uchiha, go before he kills you. This man was really confusing her. Why did he call Naruto a demon? Why would he think that he'd corrupt her, let alone kill her? A woman pulled her from her thoughts when she grabbed her and started pulling her away. She noticed that more people gathered in the street and blocked where Naruto was headed. They were in a semicircle around him and looked as though they were a predator ready to pounce on their prey. Naruto saw her be grabbed and pulled Suzuki. He tried to reach and grab her hand but missed. He was scared they may try to hurt her. He couldn't take the thought. He couldn't take the potential chance of her being hurt. His eyes became red with a black slit. His whisker marks blackened and became more pronounced. His hair became more feral and messy. You will let her go or you'll die. Naruto's voice was dark and demonic sounding. The aura he gave off was terrifying and felt powerful beyond measure. Suzuki never seen him like this, never heard his voice like that. She was scared not for herself as she knew he'd never hurt her but for everyone around her. She didn't know what to do. She froze. The woman began to try to back away, still holding on to Suzuki. The men that had gathered around Naruto lunged at him. In the same instant they dropped to the ground. Blood gushed from their throats, and Naruto wasn't in sight. Then Suzuki turned around when she heard the sound of someone falling behind her. She saw the woman on her knees with a fist through her back and through her heart exiting her chest. Naruto pulled his arm back and suddenly they were surrounded by Umbu. Naruto had blood all on his arm and held a bloody kunai. He looked at Suzuki, who had tears in her eyes at seeing what Naruto just do. He just killed 11 people and didn't seem anything like himself. The Umbu were nervous. They were worried that the QB finally gained control. They didn't know what to do. Should they kill him? If the QB gained control, then what could it do through Naruto's body? Was Naruto still alive within his mind? They knew that the Hokage really cared for the boy. They did as well. The Umbu are loyal to the Hokage, and as such they knew of Naruto and his heritage. They served under Minato and now were hesitating. Something that Umbu don't do. And Naruto? Suzuki asked, wondering if he was in there. Naruto's eyes looked all around. They were surrounded, but he felt no ill will. As such, his eyes and features reverted back to normal. Finally everything came back to him, and he looked at his hands shaking. He dropped to his knees crying. He just killed these people the first time he killed a person, and they were civilians. He was a monster, the demon they called him. All he had known was that his anger had peaked far higher than ever before when he saw someone taking Suzuki away. He couldn't control himself. He lashed out and killed everyone that had tried to do something. 11 people, dead in an instant by his own doing. No matter how much he trained and knew that one day in the line of duty he'd have to take a life, that didn't ever make one truly prepared for when it comes. Naruto had just killed 11 non-shinobi people and was in shock and saddened at what he'd done. Suzuki tried to go to him but was stopped by none other than the Hokage. Sandaime-sama, the Umbu all said in unison. Everyone could tell that Naruto was now back to normal and pained by what he'd just done. I'll take him to my office. Cat, go get Kakashi. Hi. They all bowed and left. The cat-masked Umbu with purple hair remained for a second looking at Naruto before leaving. It was Yugao, and she couldn't help but feel bad for him. She wasn't around much anymore, as she dove head-on into her work after the news of Shisui. She really had strong feelings for him that were never displayed. Same was said for him. She cared about Naruto and felt bad that she had sort of left him alone. She'd have to change that now more than ever. She then left to retrieve Kakashi. What do I do? Suzuki was crying. Her best friend was in pain, and she saw just how much he bottled up as he had been pushed to the edge. She knew he didn't mean for it to happen, but seeing her getting taken away must have been too much for him. Go to the academy and act as nothing happened. You won't speak of this event to anyone. You can come by the office after you finish the day at the academy. He placed a hand on her shoulder, and she nodded. He knew that the two cared deeply for each other. Don't worry about him, I'll take care of him today. She then turned to walk away but gave one more look to Naruto. Why couldn't he ever just stay happy? It seemed that every time he ever showed happiness, tragedy always struck and took it away from him. Today had started so good, and she felt that maybe things would be looking up, yet again it seemed that it wouldn't be. A tear escaped her eyes as she slumped her shoulders and looked down. She hated the thought that Naruto may never get to truly be happy again. Why him? He didn't deserve the seemingly never-ending suffering he had. Hokage office. How is he? Kakashi had came quickly. The only time he was never late was when it involved Naruto. He's sleeping now, but the first kill is always the hardest given the circumstances that led to it. He'll be shaken up. Especially when he thinks about the fact that they weren't shinobi. What are we supposed to Sandaime-sama? At every turn he is met with more and more tragedy. All we can do is hope he can stay strong. I feel that so long as Suzuki is okay, he can. I only fear for if she isn't. Kakashi nodded. He knew Naruto cared for her even deeper than he or himself even. Naruto would rather die than her be harmed. Naruto didn't understand his feelings, but Kakashi knew that it was that of love. Love intensified by the Sharingan, multiplied by the Mangekyo. She was his light in his darkness. The two have endured so much as it is they're lucky to have each other. Kakashi said as he overlooked the sleeping Naruto. That they are. Hiruzen agreed, and that may be the only thing that Naruto had going for him. Naruto would always have Kakashi, Hiruzen and Yugao, but it was nothing compared to having Suzuki with him. Academy. Iruka was taking the attendance, and so far everyone had been present as usual. At the very bottom was Naruto. He called out his name, no answer. A second then subsequent third time with no answer. Looking up he saw that he wasn't there. Where's Naruto? Anyone know? Suzuki got saddened but tried not to show it. Hokage-sama is with him, sensei. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow and noticed that was hiding more and that there was more to it than just that. The other students didn't believe it. They all saw Naruto as useless and stupid since he never paid attention. They figured that was because he couldn't understand, and since he didn't pay attention he'd have no intellect. At least that's what they thought. Other than that, their parents told them to stay away from him, with exception to Shikamaru, Ino and a few others. Man, I bet that moron is just itching. No way Hokage-sama would waste his time with that fool. Kiba shouted arrogantly. He didn't hate Naruto but always wanted to feel like he was the best, the alpha. He was friends with Suzuki and half the time he was just saying stuff just for saying its sake. Exactly, loser like that would never have the attention of our beloved Hokage. A random student said, "You guys are morons." Shikamaru said under his breath, "What was that, lazy ass?" Kiba shouted, "Troublesome. Enough. It doesn't matter that he's not here. Don't think much of it. We'll go on regardless, with or without him." Iruka said the last word with so much disgust that it showed how much he seemed to hate the kid. Some students smiled at their sensei's disgust as it was funny to them. To Suzuki it hurt her. Shikamaru was angered a bit as his friend was being treated that way, but there was nothing he could do. Ino rubbed Suzuki's shoulder. She didn't have a bad nor good opinion of Naruto, she didn't know him personally. Only that he always looked after Suzuki, she actually found it cute. She knew that the two were close though, and having the sensei and class openly display their disgust of him must hurt quite a bit. The day was boring and long, but she was glad it was over. She went over to Shikamaru. "Hey, I know you're like Naruto's only friend. He holds you in high regard. Yes, he's a good friend and I'm flattered that he thinks such a way. I wish he'd be more open, however. I feel that the reasons are troublesome though." Shikamaru said, sighing. "Well, I'm headed to the Hokage office since Naruto has been there. Want to come? It is his birthday after all. This morning he agreed that he'd like to have you." "Sure. It'll get me away from my mom for a while." Shikamaru said, glad to be able to be away for a bit. His mom could be scary and he didn't want to have to deal with anything.